quick one before we start. If you're sick of living off servo pies and guessing your way through meals on the run, this is going to help. It's Power B from Nature B. It is a full meal replacement shake. We live on it and we thrive on it. It's not a snack, it's actually a meal. And it's got grass-fed whey protein, probiotics for gut health, and it's the only shake in Australia with Nature B's Power Pollen built in. 2 shakes a day. It is that simple. If it doesn't work for you, Nature B gives you your money back, no questions asked. The intro pack's $39.95. There are links in the description. And like anything, it works best alongside regular exercise and a balanced diet. Now, let's get into the episode.
In a world where voices are silenced,
Please.
one man refuses to lie down.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
He's been punted not once,
40 years they've been trying.
not twice,
You couldn't fire somebody if they were horrible, doing a terrible job.
but 3 times.
You're fired.
He doesn't tell you what to think, but gives you something to think about. Welcome to the Bonafide Podcast with Luke Bona. And he's not
All right, here we go.
done
Hold your ears, folks.
yet.
It's showtime.
Well, folks, g'day and welcome to another Bonafide Podcast where this will lead God knows where, but it's episode 87-ish. If you're listening to this right now on Spotify or one of the other podcast apps, stop and get over to YouTube. For the first time ever, we have decided to try our hand at putting the full episode up on YouTube. And the millennial is back from the Apple Isle, back from Tassie, and she's here with me live in the Bonafide Podcast studio that she created. Hello.
Hi.
How are you going? Welcome
I'm
back.
so freaking hot.
It is hot.
It is so humid. Don't you reckon it feels like you're in Bali?
Do you know, your mum and I love words that sound just exactly what they are. And one of those great words is muggy.
It is muggy.
Isn't that a great
today.
word?
Yeah, it is a great word. Yeah.
And another word that sounds like it is soggy.
Yeah.
Aren't they 2 great words?
What are some other ones?
Well, I can come up with a few,
Okay, maybe next time.
but muggy and soggy are words that sound like what they are.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we keep going? She's back from Tassie. What did you think of Tassie?
Oh, I thought it was beautiful. I kind of said in the, if not the last podcast, the podcast before that, then I kind of went in with, I kind of went in blind, and I think that was the best because the landscape is amazing. Hobart, I've got to say, very much impressed me. Very beautiful city. I love the old buildings, the food.
Tasmania is beautiful, and I've been there quite a few times because we used to go to Launceston every year to visit my uncle, Dad's brother. And we got to know Lonnie really well, which is up north. But we drove from Lonnie to Hobart once, and we stayed at the Hobart Casino, which I guess back in its day was supposed to be pretty flash. It is so ordinary. It's it's terrible. You know, for example, you couldn't pull the telly out of its cabinet and have a cupboard open because they locked over and it wasn't great. It wasn't great. I guess Launceston used to have a casino. Lonnie used to be famous for a casino too, but now they're dime a dozen. But, I love Tassie and I would go back again any time. But I'm glad you enjoyed Tassie.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was surprised at how much I liked it.
We got a lot coming up in today's episode 87. But I've got to have a quick word with you, Kelsey, just while we're here recording. I've got a concern about your work ethic.
I'll get lost.
Everybody in the building here has complained about how you don't focus. What? And you ask anybody and you're off with the fairies. And I just think you need to lift your game. And it's about time you addressed your demeanour.
Oh, I see what you're baiting me. You are baiting me.
There's no need to cry and go boo-hoo.
Yes. Should I read your star sign?
Oh, look, why do you put up with that rubbish?
What star sign are you actually?
Why would you put up with that rubbish?
You're born in March, right?
May.
May.
Thanks. I'm a Taurian. But why do you spend so much time concentrating on that rubbish? You should be concentrating on the podcast. This is your problem. That's why everyone's talking about you.
This is so funny because this is not you at all. So Tauruses are earth signs.
Taurians.
Whatever. Are earth signs known for being grounded? Absolutely not. Reliable. I'd say you're reliable. And patient, which I'm sorry, but you've got 1 out of 3 there.
Why do you concentrate on this rubbish? What's the population of the world?
Like 7 billion or something?
Nearly 8.
Oh.
Okay, 8 billion divided by 12. You want to tell me that amount of people divided by 12, that's 12 star signs, all have the same behavioural attitudes and characteristics? It's a crock of shit, Kelsey.
Yeah, but it's a bit of fun.
Listen here. I'm going to have a word with management. That's right, I forgot. I work for you. Mm-hmm. I think the joke's over. We're going to talk about the Jackie O and Kyle marriage split. Isn't it amazing? You know, the royal family, the House of Windsor and the former House of York would have loved a diversion away from Prince Andrew's behaviour, and Trump declares war on Iran, and we get Kyle and Jackie O as a massive diversion. Prince Andrew would be loving this, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but I don't think his issues are going away anytime soon either.
Do you know Rob McKnight? He's an entertainment reporter, but there's a lot more to Rob McKnight than meets the eye. He's got an opinion on everything, and he has his own podcast on YouTube, McKnight Tonight. Mm-hmm. And he's got some really, really strong opinions on what went wrong between Kyle and Jackie O. You may not agree with them all, but he's going to voice his opinion a little bit later.
Well, give me one teaser.
He has a lot of time for both of them, but he thinks Jackie O changed the goalposts, that Kyle is playing rugby league, she's playing hockey, and that if she has a problem with Kyle's attitude, she should have said something a long time ago.
Yeah.
And this is an out.
Yeah.
But what he said, and we'll hear the audio a little bit later when we talk to Rob McKnight, but if Kyle, and we'll talk about this because there are legal ramifications here. Bullying in any workplace today is not accepted. But if this is the only time that Kyle has bullied her to the extent where she feels she needs to walk, there must be a history of it. And if that history of bullying has been ignored by ARN management for a long time now, ARN management may think, great, we've got Kyle and Jackie O off the books. We don't have to follow through with the ridiculous $200 million 10-year contract, but they are in for a world of pain when it comes to legalities. And if Kyle's attitude and the way he behaves on air has been part of his shtick for 27 years, and that's part of the reason why they hired him, if they sack him because of this attitude, I'm no expert, but I've been in the radio game for a while, I think he has grounds for unfair dismissal. It's going to be a very interesting workplace/radio story to follow.
I mean, it's really difficult to feel sympathy for her, although I do. I do feel sympathy for her, although, I mean, a lot of the sentiment online is kind of around this idea of you've dug your own grave here. So, I would not be surprised if we get like a 60 minutes expose or whatever in the coming months. So I'll be listening with open ears.
I will too. It's extremely interesting because all parties have a massive financial interest in however this turns out. So there you are. I think signing them for 10 years at $100 million each.
Ludicrous.
$10 million a year each. I mean, they dominated FM breakfast for a long time in Sydney, but to think that they could manufacture that and replicate that in Melbourne was just the most ridiculous. Whoever did that has no idea about how radio works, because especially Sydney and Melbourne, which are really parochial markets, if you're in Sydney, you want to hear a breakfast show from Sydney talking about Sydney issues. And streamlining key shifts, especially breakfast in radio, has never worked. And this was never going to work. And whoever thought about it, well, I think they've gone now, but gee whiz, they've left a mess behind them.
That's for sure. Scotty
Phillips will join us from the Motley Fool. The financial ramifications of what's going on in Iran. How will that affect the world? But, you know, here back at home, we've already seen petrol prices spiking. They say the cost of living is going to go up. groceries are going to cost more. And, of course, the thing is innocent lives are being lost at the same time. Is this about Donald Trump wanting to get rid of a dictator, a tyrannical dictator, or is it about him wanting to control oil and petrol? What was the interest in Venezuela? I tell you what it was about oil. The replacement government and the replacement leader in Venezuela is somebody that will say, okay, we'll do what America says, we'll comply, we'll go along. And he said, yeah, great. Will that happen in Iran? In the meantime, lots of innocent people are being killed. Mind you, lots of innocent people were being killed with the dictator that was taken out. But I got to call me a cynic, Kelsey. I think it's about
You
oil.
being cynical? Never.
We're going to talk also, we're going to have the man cave with the vice captain, Adam McDonald, and you're going to meet a mate of mine that you probably had something to do with while you were working on radio in Bathurst, Warren Aubin. He's a counsellor, but he's also a racing car driver, a racing car enthusiast, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Have you heard the audio yet with Warren?
Oh, yeah, I've edited it.
Okay, because we go through something that happened on air on 2BS. We think about 1987, where he would have been 19 or 20, and the famous secret sound audio that went viral even before the internet, before the word viral was invented. But we'll have a bit of fun. Is it just for little ears, or have you done
I have SFX'd the actual words out, but I think you will be able to understand what he said.
All right. All that and a whole lot more coming up here on episode 87 of the Bonafide Podcast with myself and the much-travelled millennial. So a lot of the news that's making news we're going to cover with our guests and our interviews later on in the podcast. So why don't we go straight to the inbox? We've got a voice message from Guy.
G'day, Luke and Thomas, if you're listening. Usually. Anyway, it's Guy here, just ringing up to let you know. I've sent you guys an email in relation to Jeff, a.k.a. the serial pest from
Kyle and Jackie O.
and Days. Just letting you know that he passed away. But if you look in the emails there, you'll see it for an email from me explaining some details. I just wanted to let you know how much he enjoyed going on your show and competing to get some shirts as him and I tried to work out who was the champion. The bugger ended up snipping me at the end, but the truth be known, I was the winner because I had more than him anyway. Anyway, may he rest in peace. Love him dearly, miss him dearly.
Did you ever hear this guy on Triple M?
I think I know who he is, but can you remind me?
He was a guy who used to ring up and just complain. You know how Lawsy had Norman? I had Jeff the Pest. But it was fun. It was extremely entertaining. And I wonder if Thomas has kept any of the Jeff the Pest audio. He was not malicious, but he was a pest. And I'm really sad to hear that. I had no idea he was ill or he didn't sound elderly. So it saddens me because he made up such a great part of the night shift on Triple M. And he was a character. He was a character. So I'm very, very sorry to hear that. I mean that sincerely. So we'll try and find some Jeff the Pest audio for a later episode. We've also got a voice message from Gary from Mackay.
Hey, guys, it's Gary from Mackay. We're just doing a little travel up to Gloucester. And believe it or not, Luke, we've come across a place called Bona Bay.
Bona Bay.
Bona Bay, next holiday destination.
Yeah, it's a hard drive.
Oh, my God.
But what? I'm just... should we do an episode from Bona Bay and take photos? Is there a Bona Street?
So Bona Bay, you can camp there. It's an area on Gloucester. How do you say that?
Gloucester.
Gloucester?
Gloucester.
It's like Worcestershire.
Worcestershire sauce.
Bona Bay features a pleasant outlook and long sandy beach. The campground is large and shaded with ample opportunity to find secluded camping. There you go, Luke.
Okay, we'll have to go to Bona Bay. If you're from Bona Bay, contact us and sell your postcode. Tell us why we should go there and what's it got to offer.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about your little nooks of the world.
Yeah. So sell us, pimp your postcode.
Oh, that's good.
I just came up with that.
Did you?
Yeah.
You've heard it before somewhere else, surely.
Nah, come on.
Oh, okay.
Pimp your postcode. Where are you? Where are you from? Why should we go there? Call us on 0291289311 or lukebonaradioguy@gmail.com. Brendan has sent us a video to watch. He says it reminds him of our chat about big business donating to charity. This is from South Park, all right.
There we go. That's okay. And would you like to give $1 to hungry kids today? No, I said no before. Oh, that's right. Okay, there's a picture of a little hungry boy. Will you just press on his belly? Ow! Ow! Okay, that's got it. So with the no help for hungry kids, that's $18.87. Add a 20. Your change is right there. Just pull the sandwich out of the little girl's mouth. This is not streamlined. It's just the new change dispenser, sir. I can't. Yeah, she's a hungry one. You got to pull hard.
It is very, very funny. I do hate it when at the checkout they say, and would you like to make a donation to our charity? I have a charity, Wounded Heroes, and I donate enough to that. And I hate it when people ask me, and they shame you.
Yeah, they do.
They shame you.
It is a psychological tactic that they use to try and get you to donate.
Who was it that we had on that said it was Adam McDonald? Was it the vice captain?
Adam McDonald. Yeah, he said it was
yeah.
a tax thing, but it's not actually.
But do you hate it when you're pressured into making a donation when you really don't want to and made to feel like an absolute tight-ass prick because you don't want to make a donation or the cost of living has got you counting every $2 coin? That's very funny.
Especially with the price of petrol, set to go up over $2 pretty soon. In some regional areas, I heard on the TV this morning, it's gone up over $4 a litre. Yeah,
Northern Territory. And this is another thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Because of the conflict in the Middle East, there could be a shortage of petrol in 3 weeks. We only have 3 weeks of
I heard about that.
I know. It's unbelievable. And we've spoken to David Littleproud. We spoke to Bob Catter about this on the podcast. Can Australia be self-sufficient? We only have 2 working oil refineries in Australia, so we're going to have to build some more. But where do we get the oil from?
Yeah.
We used to have oil rigs in Bass Strait, but we pumped them dry. So I'm sure that the fuel companies would love to find more deposits of oil in Australian waters. And I'm sure if they were there, they would have found them by now. I don't know what the cost would be, but wouldn't it be great to be self-sufficient? But just let me say this. To all the petrol stations that are price gouging, and they are, if they have suddenly put the price of petrol up $1 a litre overnight, the ACCC start doing your job because they have not paid more for the fuel that they already have stored underground. That is fuel that they bought last week or the week before at a set price. For fuel that's already stored and already paid for suddenly that fuel to go up $1 a litre overnight is price gouging. So what the hell do we have the ACCC for? There needs to be a thorough inquiry.
Damn, pop off.
I mean, don't you agree?
Of course, yeah, of course I agree. But what do you think of the airlines hiking up their prices? Because those seats are still on the plane, right? And I know they're saying, they're filling up first class seats, so they have to raise the price of the tickets. But they don't technically have to. Even if they kept the prices exactly where they were, it's not like they're going to be running at a loss. So,
see, I don't know the whole story. I hear what you're saying, but particularly an overseas airline, depending on where they're going, their airport fees for landing and taking off may have gone up. So I don't know if their overheads have gone up. I'm by no means an expert, but the fuel that's already under the ground at the service stations, for them to suddenly put the price up $1 a litre, and in the Northern Territory $4 a litre for petrol that's already paid for.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's wrong. ACCC, earn your keep.
And while you're there, fix the grocery prices, please.
Yeah, and some of the potholes.
Yeah, you know what? Just everything.
And get better movies on Netflix, for Christ's sake. It's Just
They don't have anything to do with that.
Oh, I'm just on a rant. And do something about Kelsey's attitude. She's obsessed with astrology. No wonder everyone talks about her. All right, now there's another voice message here.
G'day, Luke, Kelsey. It's Tony from Inglewood in Victoria. Hey, quick question for you. I've been on YouTube a bit, and I've been looking at a lot of the SAS involvement in Vietnam of late, because my late father was a Vietnam vet. Not SAS, he was RAAF, but they keep mentioning that the SAS learnt a lot of stuff from Borneo and the Malayan incident. I don't know much about it, so I'm wondering if that might be something you could do on your, look back in Australian history.
Okay, you're nearly there. The SAS, Australian troops in Vietnam, were respected and feared by the Americans. And when I say that, it's because Australians understood guerrilla warfare. And they did learn it in Borneo and Malaya, but they also learned a lot of it in Papua New Guinea during World War II. And they learned a lot about jungle warfare from those beautiful fuzzy wuzzies. And there's a great quote from an Australian sergeant, SAS platoon leader, because the colonels and the lieutenants are gone and they put real Australian soldiers in charge of platoons, who said to an American official, "We're not soldiers, we are warriors." And Kelsey, what they would do is they would say to the Americans, "See you later. We'll go out and we'll come back with reconnaissance and information and intelligence. We don't want Americans to come with us." And this is very well documented. They took very, very few supplies, very light backpacks. They got their boots and cut them. And they took out the toes and put holes where the leather met the sole. Why? Because of the torrential rain. And when your boots fill with water, you get foot rot and blisters. And so they virtually turned their boots into colanders. They moved very, very slowly. You might have an American platoon that might cover 10 to 12 kilometres in a day. Well, the Australians were happy to cover just one. They moved silently and deadly. They took their time. They could see if a twig had been broken the wrong way or if a branch didn't look right. And just remember, they're fighting the VC, the North Vietnamese, and it was their home ground. The place is littered with booby traps, with the silent and sightless enemy, the VC, and the Australians knew how to combat them. And the VC were terrified of Australians. They would get in, they would map exactly where munitions were stored, how many VC they were facing, what their plans were, and silently get back out and report. Not using radios, because radios made a noise. Smoking was forbidden because the smell of smoke through the Vietnamese jungle carried 1,000,000 miles. They didn't talk. They used hand signals. It was a new way of fighting for the Americans. They had seen nothing like it. And the mortality rate per person with the Americans and the Australians massively ahead, because they understood guerrilla warfare and the VC knew it and were terrified of them. I'm happy to go into more detail about it.
Yeah.
And it is fascinating. And we've got Anzac Day coming up.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we do something on Australia's involvement in the Vietnam War? Incidentally, Gough Whitlam got rid of the Australian presence in Vietnam when he was elected in 1972. And there is a big conspiracy that the CIA and the American government was part of the dismissal of Whitlam in 75 because they wanted Australia to stay in there. And Gough Whitlam wanted American bases gone too.
Yeah.
Well, no, the Americans needed Australia strategically. But it's another story altogether. But the SAS, the Australian SAS, were feared by the Americans and the VC because they were swift, they were silent, and very, very deadly.
Very interesting. All right, one more voicemail and then I've got something to teach you.
Hey, Luke and Kelsey, just listen to the Truckee Tuesday. That Travis Sinclair is an absolute legend. What a great bloke. So down to earth. Anyway, love the show. Thanks, bye.
I love Travis, and his participation in the Truckee Tuesday was one of the best ever. What a wonderful bloke. What a great storyteller, a great communicator, but he's got soul. This guy is not just a great musician and a truckie of 30 plus years, but he's a poet, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. I was very enjoyable listening to him.
I hate to say it, I was surprised. I hadn't really listened to his music or read his lyrics before. The guy's fantastic. And he said he might work on a jingle for us.
Oh, how exciting.
So, Travis Sinclair, we salute you. Well done. And thank you to the listener who contacted us and said you've got to listen to Travis Sinclair.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are the best. Okay, now, Luke, it's Friday. So I am bringing you my, I guess, Friday fun.
Okay.
I've got a question for you. First of all, when you think of the Lion King, what do you think of? Have you ever thought about what that actually means, that iconic opening line? Have you thought about what the translation might mean?
I've never thought of it.
Take a guess. Just take a wild guess.
I have no idea.
So it translates to, look, there's a lion. Oh my God.
Really?
Yeah, that's what the translation is. Look, there's a lion. Oh my God.
I'm shitting myself.
Yeah.
Really?
So that's my fun fact for the day. So the more you know.
Hakuna Matata.
Oh, this was not an invitation to do karaoke.
How's it go? Hakuna.
You've got it, yeah.
I can't remember.
Hakuna Matata.
When Jacob and Holly were little.
What a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It's a problem-free.
Feel the love tonight.
Okay, that's enough.
Thanks for listening. Thought for the day. Well, I'm going to save that for when we talk to Scotty Phillips. You have to stay with us.
But you let him stick around. Luke's chilly meltdowns and his bulletproof head sound.
Time to talk a little bit of economics and a little bit of fun, but topics that affect all of us, and who better to get than our mate from the Motley Fool, Scotty Phillips. A very warm welcome back to the Bonafide Podcast, mate.
Luke, g'day. Thank you for having me, mate. I always have an absolute ball chatting with you. We'll try and make it fun. We'll try and make it interesting. We'll try to make it too dry. Let's see how we go.
Well, let's see how we go. But there is a very, very serious topic we need to address first, and that's the war in Iran, well, in the Middle East. One thing that is going to affect all of us, and that is trade now. We've already seen all the world's airlines cancel flights that fly anywhere near that hotspot. And we've also seen the world's largest transporters of ocean-going goods, and we're talking container ships, also cancel because they have been bombed by Iranian strikes. And so that's going to affect trade worldwide, but it's going to affect us. And it's also probably, Scotty Phillips, going to have an effect on the price of petrol over the next couple of weeks, unless, of course, there's an immediate change in leadership in that part of the world, which will dull things down and get things back to some sort of sense of normality soon. And we're hoping that is sooner rather than later. Scotty, what's your take on all of this?
Yeah, Luke, great summary, mate. Really good setup. The first thing I'm going to say, mate, and you know, people like me should say this more often, and I don't know, and nor does anybody else. We saw plenty of commentary about, oh, it's going to do this to petrol prices and that to petrol prices. And, here's the range. The range of outcomes is enormous, right? Let's say in 2 days' time, the Iranians back down, whatever happens, and again, there are other people better than me to talk about the local or the Iranian issues specifically within Iran. But if it means there is no more conflict, if it means there is no more issue for freight or importantly for oil, we're back to normal. And so this is one of those blips you look back and go, could have been anything, was nothing. On the very other end of the spectrum, and again, this is just the range of outcomes. I'm not going to do the alarmist stuff. If there is a sustained restriction on the Strait of Hormuz, if they can't get oil through there, if there does become a larger Middle East conflagration, if we do have meaningful issues in terms of how much oil can be pumped out and when, we will see the oil price spike meaningfully. The general view is you can roughly say $1 a barrel of oil is about a cent a litre here at home. Right? So that's kind of, keep that in mind. Some people are saying oil goes from 67 odd bucks to about $100 a barrel. If in that worst case scenario, that would add literally 30, 35 cents to a litre of petrol or diesel. So that's the very far end. By the way, if that goes for a long time, we're in a global recession. Oil, for all of the changes to renewables and everything else we talk about, oil still greases the wheels literally and metaphorically of the world's economy. Expensive oil means more financial pain, global recession. What's actually going to happen? I have absolutely no idea. Generally speaking, the worst case scenarios rarely happen. Not never, so I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but every time you see those doom and gloom forecasts, remember it was the same as this when we had the issues with Israel and we've been through Syria and we've been through it so many times, and yet here we are. So I suspect history suggests we go, oh, this could be terrible, and it's not. Every now and again, like a COVID type thing, it does become a big deal. I don't know which way this goes.
Tell me, why can't we be more self-sufficient? Is that a really dumb, naive question?
No, it's a brilliant question.
Obviously, people with electric cars are going to go, great stuff, told you, this is great.
Yep,
However, the world still does revolve around fossil fuels. So tell me this, why can't we drill for oil in our waters and refine it here and be more self-sufficient? Is that a dumbass question?
No, great question, mate. I'm not a geologist, but I believe the ability to access relatively inexpensive oil is very, very, very difficult in Australia these days. Most of the fossil fuels we bring, most of the hydrocarbons, as they say, we bring to the surface, are in the form of LNG these days. So whether it's Northwest Shelf, whether it's Tasman, Bass Strait, generally speaking, and again, I'm not a geologist, mate, there's probably geologists listening going, no, there's heaps, it's over here. From what I understand, and well, here's the thing, if we could do it, we would. So either it's not accessible, it's not cheap enough to access, they're two different things, access, or thirdly, maybe there's some regulation stopping us drilling in particular areas where maybe we could find it. But broadly speaking, what we do now here at home is largely, almost entirely gas, liquefied natural gas, LNG.
Right.
And so the reason we can't literally be self-sufficient as far as I'm aware is we just don't produce enough oil that can be distilled down to diesel and to petrol. Now, again, if that's wrong, someone else will tell me, but that's my understanding. To your point about refining, that's a really good question too. And this is, mate, we've talked a little bit before about this. It goes to how we want to structure our economy. On one hand, people say we want cheap energy, right? Totally reasonable, understandable, acceptable. And then we say we want to do these things ourselves. It would cost us more to refine, to drill and refine for oil here if we did it all locally ourselves. That's just the reality of the situation. If we brought raw crude into Australia and refined it here, we have one refiner left, maybe two, I think. We could do it, but it's going to cost more than getting it from overseas. Now, we can make that choice, but we have to accept that, therefore, everything's going to be more expensive. We're talking a lot about inflation in the last couple of months, mate. It would make it more. So we can do anything we want, literally, other than maybe find stuff that's not here. We just have to decide how much we want it to cost. And some people will say right now, listening to this, sovereignty, self-sufficiency is more important. I want to pay more for petrol. If that's true, that's cool. We should make that decision and then make that trade-off because it's going to have flow-on effects.
So the race to get renewable energy more efficient and safer is on more than ever. And I'm a big fan of it so long as it is safe and it is cheap and it is reliable. And at this point, it isn't any of those things. Now, my father-in-law is a very, very smart bloke. He used to be the CFO of a huge company. I think I've told you about this. And he does a lot of research on every purchase he gets. He's a pain in the ass, actually. I mean, he's a huge consumer of Choice huge consumer of Choice magazine, but he won't buy a refrigerator or a microwave. And he's one of those people that reads the directions and the pamphlet cover.
Someone had to read them.
Someone had to read them. Someone's getting paid to write them. You may as well read them. But he's that kind of bloke. Now, he's had solar panels for a long, long time, but now he's got a battery. It's at the side of his house near his power box. And it stores power from his solar panels, and he can use that. And in the case of a blackout, he can run his house, including his TV, his washing machine, his refrigerators, and his pool, off his battery. Are you satisfied that these batteries are that good? What's the life of these things? Are they safe to have next to your house? You would have done your research. What do you make of this?
Yeah. Now, I'm not anti-green anything. I'm not pro black anything. I don't care. I think we need to take climate action, as you mentioned. It's a good thing overall, right? So let's do that. We could be self-sufficient for power generation more easily with nuclear, for example, than with these things. Solar panels come from China. Wind turbines generally made offshore and imported. If we valued self-sufficiency, we could do that through nuclear. Now, from what I'm told, it's more expensive. It takes a long time to get here. There's environmental issues in terms of how long it's going to take and how much damage you do in the meantime. But that's one of the things we could choose, again, a bit like you mentioned about distilling our own oil and refining our own oil. We could do the same thing with nuclear power. Would be more self-sufficient because we mine uranium here, right? So we could have effectively a closed loop in Australia if we wanted to. And for national security, that's worth asking. Go further than that, though. Your point about renewables comes in because, like, well, hang on. If we need less oil, would we be more self-sufficient on a day-to-day basis? Absolutely. More panels, more batteries. You know, if we drove EVs, we wouldn't need to import so much oil. So that is the right direction. Think about trucks. So, you know, we would be more self-sufficient, less prone to external shocks if there was more renewables. The battery stuff, I'm not an industrial chemist either. Lithium batteries are prone to fire rarely, but happen. So just that's just the reality, right? Now, that being said, petrol cans blow up, people's LPG tanks blow up in their barbecues. You know, we've got to be careful we don't say, this is not perfect, therefore it's not better, because it may well be. Batteries are really, 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 really close to being a no-brainer for almost everybody listening with a roof. As long as you're getting decent amounts of sunshine, not getting shade and stuff. We're probably one generation of batteries away from it being an absolute explosion. Because we're kind of on that edge, right? Depending on what price you're getting, there's subsidies all over the place. You're kind of at a point where you can get a payback on your battery. And they're normally warranted for about 7 to 10 years, some 15. And you can get a payback on some of these now within 7 years. But the next generation of them, if all of a sudden they get much cheaper, then the ROI drops massively. You get a payback in 3 or 4 years. If they store more per cell, per dollar, per whatever, again, they might get cheaper in terms of absolute cost. They can store more for the same price. So we are absolutely at the precipice, let me mix my metaphors, of those floodgates bursting open. When batteries just tip over that line, and maybe it takes 15 years, maybe it's coming in 6 months. Right now, depending on how you use your power, how much you generate, how much you store, the price you get, it's pretty much break even. I've been looking at it myself, mate, and I can't quite make it work for me yet, based on household consumption and use. But as I said, we are that close. I may just go, hey, in 10 years' time, power might be more expensive. I might as well do it, which is the other thing you got to kind of gamble on. Or I might wait and say the next generation of batteries, when they store twice as much or they cost half as much, then all of a sudden it's not exactly game over, but if every house doesn't have a battery that can reasonably capture the sunlight, I'd be really surprised.
Scotty Phillips, a story that was a big news story this week, and I need you to walk us through this. The Commonwealth Bank, it reportedly suspects around 1 billion, that's a word with a B, in home loans were obtained fraudulently, including through AI-generated documents. There was a story that was in the Australian Financial Review last week that said that the bank had actually reported itself to police and the corporate watchdog is going to investigate. What's happened, Scotty?
So this is a great one, Luke. So there's brickbats and bouquets here. CBA proactively looked for fraud, they found fraud, and they self-reported to police. And that's kind of that part of the system.
So on the
working,
surface,
right?
you go, well done.
Correct. And it's not just that. And there's other stuff we should say, how the hell did it happen? And we'll get to that in a second. But there is some, and I think it's because we can very easily say, massive fraud, massive problems, bloody hell, what's CBA doing? The reverse is, they found it, they solved it, they reported it, it'll get addressed. So the system's working, at least the safeguards that are in place are working to catch the problems, not before they happen, which is the issue. I'll get to that. There's some genuine positivity and benefit out of this. Like they found it, they're addressing it, dealing with it. How did it happen? Comes down to, we talk about AI a bit, Luke. AI was used, as you say. This is automation. This is, does it tick the boxes? And there was a time, you and I are old enough to remember the local bank manager. You'd go and say, local bank manager, been banking that there for X number of years. You say, mate, I need a loan. Oh, you're a good bloke. You've been paying your bills. People like you in the community. You're a good risk. Here's the money, right? That's long gone. And banking was more expensive and maybe it was biased and lots of bad stuff in the past, but that was a benefit, right? There was a social component to being creditworthy, remaining creditworthy, all that kind of good stuff. These days, like, jump online, put your details in. You'll see plenty of ads around for, loan approvals in 60 seconds online or back to you within an hour. They're using computerization to do it. And that's really, really good. So it attracts customers because it feels easy. It's cheap for the bank because there's no one involved or not many people involved. What AI is really great at is multiplying outputs based on a single input. It's really, really good at that. The fraudsters just got around the systems. They just worked out where the kinks were and went straight in and kind of, got through a chink. So it's just in the armor, maybe got through the holes in the armor. And that's kind of how it happened. Now, you know what's fascinating about this? This is not fraud it's fraud. It's not fraud in the sense that they took money from the CBA and ran away. These people actually use AI to get a loan and are now paying the loan off. And so it's kind of one of those things where they, I should say allegedly a couple of times here, so I don't get myself in trouble. They allegedly lied on the application to get a loan they wouldn't have otherwise qualified for. Yeah. But they're paying the loans. So the CBA says, hang on, we didn't find them because they weren't paying. We didn't find them because they took the money and ran. They borrowed the money, they're paying it off, they've got the asset, CBA's got security over the asset, and that's why we say $1 billion of loans is big. But it's not $1 billion loss, it's not $1 billion of cash, it's just loans totaling that sort of number were written by people basically exposing flaws in CBA's credit system, getting the loans, but then actually using them as if we would. And it's kind of, I'm going to say a couple of people listening to this right now, Luke, may well have fibbed a little bit on their loan application, may put their expenses down a little bit or something. And
as my daughter would say, Dad, when I tell a story and embellish it, she says, Dad, you've put a bit of extra mayo on that.
Exactly. Plenty of mayo on the pages on the application. Yeah. So look, but this was done at scale, using AI, as you said. And so, it's just it's bad. The loan is fine. As long as they keep paying it, the loan is fine. The security exists and they're fine. Any of these automated systems that aren't managed properly do expose you to these sorts of risks. Now, plenty of upside. It's cheaper for the bank. They're growing like topsy, but you've got to be careful of those sort of problems.
So can we stay with AI and AI doing the jobs that real people used to do? And you know where I'm going here? I'm talking about Afterpay. Now, the parent company of Afterpay and Square has announced it has culled 4,000 jobs internationally. At this point, it looks like 400 jobs in Australia. It's a US-based company, and it also runs platforms such as Square and Cash App. And they made the announcement via their co-founder, who is Jack Dorsey, last week, who claimed the changing role of AI in the industry, and he's not blaming financial struggles. Now, a lot of these jobs are replaced by AI. It is a troublesome sign, isn't it? And it was bound to happen. I mean, for goodness sake, when Henry Ford got his act together with the manufacturer of motor cars, a lot of people lost their jobs that were horse and carts, and the people who cleaned up the horse poo after the horse and carts lost their jobs. But do you see this as a worldwide problem, that AI is going to take thousands, if maybe millions of jobs?
I'm no futurist, Luke, but absolutely yes. I would be shocked if it didn't. I'm using AI increasingly. Every time I talk to you, I say I'm using it more than I was last time I talked to you. I'm going to say it again today. I'm using it a lot more than I did 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months ago. Why? Because it's getting better. I'm finding better uses for it. I'm getting more comfortable and familiar with it. I'm using it for a different range of things. I'm using it at work, I'm using it at home. Everything from holiday destinations through to, what else happened? Looking at a camper trailer, there was everything, right? So back to your question. I won't go off the tangent. I'm not a futurist. I don't know. What I do know, you mentioned the Henry Ford production line. Every technological innovation, and when you think about technology, we're used to thinking about computers, right? But technology is tools, is really what technology is, right? It's fancy name for tool. So when we're all reaping wheat by hand, someone invented the scythe. Then someone invented the tractor, right? The stump jump plow, famously. All the way through the mechanization of the production line, as you say.
It was the Industrial Revolution.
That's exactly what it is. And so here's the thing, before we go into the AI stuff. The Industrial Revolution has given us stupidly, massive increases in the standard of living. You are better being poor today than one of the richest people in the world 200 years ago. Think about the safety nets, the healthcare system. You'd rather be poor today than rich, 250 years ago. Why? Productivity. We've designed, we've built, we've grown, we've been ingenious. All those things have happened just on top of each other and leveled up. So we've got the society we've got now. Computerization itself during the 80s and 90s, right? But here's the other thing. There was a small global recession. It's almost never talked about now in the 50s.
Right.
And it was kind of hidden because the baby boom was kind of happening at the same time. Yeah. And so the boom was so long and the economic growth was so long, we kind of missed that little 2-year-odd, just little recessional dip in the middle of that. And it's put down by most people to automation, Henry Ford did the production line in the early 1900s, but when it really hit its straps, when automation hit its straps, mechanization hit its straps, was the 50s. Post-war, we learned all those things. We built production lines for tanks and planes and ammunition. We kind of went, hey, we got this stuff. Let's do more of it. And a whole lot of people were put out of work, and the economies really did stutter in the 50s. Now, I'm not saying that will happen. What I am saying is AI will replace, of course it will replace jobs. If you can use AI to write computer code, which is where block comes from. By the way, that 4,000 number, that's out of a total of 10,000 total. They are ditching 40%, 2 in 5 workers is going. Largely in programming and technological design. Why? Because ChatGPT can do it for you. And there's plenty of other we use ChatGPT, it's the one you see, but there's so much AI behind that. They can do all this stuff. So it is going to keep happening. I'm absolutely sure. How quickly? I don't know. I hope it's not too fast, mate, because the risk is, like the 50s, we have AI advances at a pace that society can't keep up with, just in general, but in employment in particular. Now, 85% of us worked on farms at one point, right? We don't have 85% unemployment today because you've got tractors. Why? Other jobs, other industries, other ideas, other products. We will find a way, I suspect, I hope, to put everyone to work who's put out of work by AI eventually. WiseTech, an Australian technology company, is going to sack 2,000 people over the next 2 years. Block, Square, Afterpay, 4,000 today. Roll that forward, how many other companies go, we could do that too, All of a sudden, 4,000 becomes 7,000, becomes 12,000, becomes 20,000, becomes whatever. The question is, how fast does it happen? And that's what does really genuinely worry me.
Let me tell you a brief conversation I had with a very, very good mate of mine who's been in radio longer than me and is still in radio. In fact, was one of the original on-air lineup talents on Triple M when it opened in 1980, and he's still working in radio. Awesome. And we were talking about how radio has just changed so much in our working life. Now, I started radio in 1978, and he started 10, 15 years before me. The automation and the voice tracking and the satellite capabilities and being able to broadcast into any market in Australia from one centralised position. And it took away a lot of jobs. Sadly for radio, it took away a lot of the great training ground that he and I grew up with, And now you have radio stations that are using AI to voice track radio shifts. Now, they have to be transparent and apparently make it very clear that they're using AI, but will people care so long as they're getting their entertainment for free? So that's just the industry that I've been in all my life, and it's changed so much. And the bean counters love the technology, but the people working in the industry ended up hating it. And eventually the listeners, I think, too, are being robbed of a real product. It's just an example. It's a worry.
Mate, it's a lovely example. It's really good one. Think about, that's absolutely true. And those things, I really hate losing some of that social fabric stuff. But also, it's the story of progress. And I don't mean that in any way that's okay or we shouldn't worry about it or might be mindful of it or try and protect or solve for some of that stuff. You have this podcast, right? Because a whole lot of people went, geez, I miss Luke on the night shift on Triple M. I'm going to make sure I follow him on the podcast, which is brilliant. They love you. They want entertainment, sure, but they actually want you. They can just keep listening to radio if they wanted to, but they're jumping on the Bonafide podcast as well as other things. So I want Luke. That's important. So those things really matter.
It's also massively affected wages in the radio industry. I mean, it's not guaranteed now. You do a breakfast program in a capital city and you'll get $1 million. It is a third of that now. And that's because the advertising pie hasn't gotten bigger. The slices have gotten smaller. And advertisers now have so many more avenues to get their message across. I mean, when I started in radio, Scotty, you had radio, television, newspapers, magazines, and possibly billboards and bus stops. You look at it now, and everyone who has a podcast is looking for sponsorship. So it really has changed. For the better or worse, only time will tell. But it's just an interesting observation on my part. Hey, listen, I want to ask you a question. Once again, it could be a really dumbass question.
Go for it, mate. Love it.
But once again, it's just a Luke Bona observation. We still hear about black market tobacco shops being raided, closed down, or even bombed and burnt down. God, you wouldn't want to rent a flat above a tobacco shop.
No, exactly.
But the black market for tobacco and tobacco products, and I'm including vapes, has absolutely flourished in the wake of Australia's really aggressive tax policy. And it's created a lucrative opportunity for organised crime. Legal tobacco prices have absolutely soared. And Scotty, the criminal networks are profiting by undercutting the legal products. Now, when you put a huge tax or excise, whatever it is you want to call it, on a product that's addictive, you are going to create a black market. Let me just tell you a story, Scotty, and you may have heard it, but for our listeners who haven't, there was a story on the news a couple of days ago about, and it was a sting operation done by a television network, not by the police, and it was an op shop near Brisbane. It wasn't Lifeline, it wasn't Salvos, but it was a community op shop. Cheap clothes, cutlery, plates, that sort of thing. But it was a front for an illegal vape tobacco shop. And what happened was, word got round, no advertising, the word got round because these vapes and the tobacco products are addictive and financially out of reach for a lot of people. So you went into this op shop and you said that you wanted to make a purchase on, and there's a code word, and you got a white receipt for a jacket or a shirt or a pair of shoes or 6 plates, but there was a code on the receipt. And then the customer goes out to the car park where there's a black van, shows the why are you laughing? I watched it. Mm-hmm. And in a black plastic garbage bag, they walked away with the product that was being handed to them by the black van in the car park that was obviously working in cahoots with this op shop. I mean, that's going on now because these shops are being raided. And if you've got an illegal product in there, you'll be shut down. I mean, that's the lengths that people are going to. And you think about how crime flourished, not just in Chicago with Al Capone, but here in Australia during Prohibition. And the Crims loved Prohibition. So, Scotty, my question for you is, do heavy taxes, aggressive taxes and excises contribute to a black market? And what's the answer?
Yes, they absolutely do, but it's the level that matters. And the answer is a thing your listeners might have heard of called the Laffer curve. Now, Arthur Laffer was an economist decades ago now, and he drew a curve on... Let
me write that down. I love being educated.
L-A-F-F-E-R, Laffer curve.
L-A-F-F-E-R, the Laffer curve.
Now, I'll keep it really easy and simple because it's hard to do pictures on radio, right?
Yeah.
Effectively, think about a rainbow, okay? And the rainbow starts at the bottom left, goes up to the middle, and comes back down again to the bottom right. And Laffer said that's tax revenue as tax rates increase. So if you're charging 1% income tax, you'll collect a certain amount of tax. If you increase to 2%, your tax collection goes up. So we go riding up the rainbow, right? You get to 5%, then 10%, then 20%. At some point. Now, Laffer was an anti-tax guy, so there's the ideology here, but it doesn't matter because the graph was still perfectly right. At some point, you get to the top of the rainbow. The top of the rainbow is where you maximize your tax revenue. You've got the rates set, gather as much revenue as you can. People had the view, particularly in the 70s and 80s, if we increase tax rates a bit further, we'll collect even more revenue, which is true as long as behavior doesn't change. But what do we know from excise? What do we know from higher tax rates? Think about some of the massive tax rates. Remember the Rolling Stones, didn't they leave England for Bermuda or something because they want to minimize tax? At some point, you go over...
A lot of British bands did, yes.
Right. So you go over the rainbow, and at some point, you say, well, hang on, the rate's now higher, but we're collecting less tax. How is that possible? And what you end up doing is discouraging the activity that you're trying to tax. There's less of it, right? So people normally say about the Laffer curve, Laffer curve, you put tax up, people always stop doing stuff. That's not true. That's the right-hand side of the curve. And the anti-tax or low-tax people will say, I'm not particularly ideological in this moment. I'm happy to, whack both groups, as you always know. Look, on the right-hand side of that, that's people say, look, see, if you put tax rates up, it's going to fall. No. If you put tax rates up, you gather more revenue. Now, that rainbow is exactly the story with tobacco in Australia. And we put an excise in, and we increased it. The rates went up, smoking rates went down. It was working beautifully, right? Now, if you're a smoker and you're addicted, you're not saying, hang on, it's not beautiful, I don't want to pay any excise at all. If you're an ideologue, you're saying we shouldn't have excise on tobacco. I'm going to put all that aside. Let's talk about the economics of this, right, for now. The excise goes up per pack. We collect more and more tax revenue. People smoke less and less because they don't like doing it. So it's working beautifully, right? And then you cross over a point. And your point is exactly valid. We did that probably about 2 years ago. So does excise mean there's a black market? No. At 1 cent a pack, there's no black market. At 10 cents a pack, there's no black market. At $20 a pack, there was no black market. At whatever it is now, $35, $40 a pack, there's a black market. We have crossed that other side. We've gone over the top of the rainbow. We're heading down the other side to the point where it absolutely encourages a black market because we made the incentive so big, the potential returns so big relative to the risk. Organised crime are like, well, I can import cigarettes and make $1 a pack importing them, but they're bulky and they're big and I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to do a lot of it and that's not worth it. When you say to organised crime, you can now import it and make $1 squillion because the gap is so big between the imported price of the bad stuff and the real stuff. We've made the opportunity so big. Not only have we incentivized Luke, not only have we allowed it, my biggest issue with the organised crime thing, we've created a framework for it. We've given them effectively a cash crop, right? You're a farmer, you want a cash crop, so it keeps the money coming in while you do other stuff. We've given them a structure. We've said you can get reliable, regular income. Just bring in smokes in, sell them off, bring them in, sell off, bring them in, sell off. It's literally sustaining the organised crime networks So they can go and do the other stuff on top of that. And it's absolute madness. And the fact that the Treasurer and the Health Department stick their heads in the sand and say, no, we're not going to be soft on smoking, it's madness, mate. Now, should we do a better job of enforcement? Absolutely. You mentioned we hear about them closing. We don't. I mean, we do. We hear about 6 shops closed. How many more do you reckon spring up as a result? At least 7, right? So it is like prohibition. You close down the speakeasies, another one opens down the road. So but we still should do the law enforcement because it's illegal, and we absolutely should prosecute crimes because that's what police and courts do, right? So let's do that. But we've created a circumstance where organised crime go, it's worth the risk. And we've also, here's the other thing, mate, we've made it socially acceptable to buy and smoke the illegal stuff. So now it's, not a parade. You don't have to hide the little illegal smoke down the back and have it down the alleyway. You smoke it with your mates because they're all smoking. I'm not a smoker, by the way. You smoke because all your mates are smoking it. Everyone's doing it, so everyone's doing it. There's no social kind of cue that says don't do it. We've set up organised crime. We've supported that system. We're collecting about 2/3 less tax than we did at the peak. So again, the Laffer curve, right? Top, I want to say it was $16 billion a year. I think we used to collect, now down to 6. Don't quote me on those numbers, something like that. So we've gone over the top of the rainbow. We are miles down the other side. Here's the other thing. Those who want to do it say, we'll put exercise hours off, stop smoking. No. You know what we've done? We've made it possible for the addicts, and I feel sorry for the poor bastards who are stuck on the stuff, but instead of buying 1 pack at 50, you're buying 3 packs at 12. So you're actually smoking more, and it's cheaper. So not only have we not collected the revenue, not only have we supported organised crime, not only have we made it socially acceptable to smoke illegal cigarettes, we've actually allowed people to smoke more because the price signal's gone into reverse. So this is an absolute policy failure across the board.
It's interesting because it's illegal to sell illegal tobacco products, but it's not illegal to buy them. I'll just tell you something interesting I found, Scotty Phillips from Motley Fool. I looked up, mind you, it was AI, but they quoted me the World Health Organization's figures from 3 years ago. You ready? Are you interested to know what the most addictive products used worldwide are from 1 through to 5? You ready?
Can I have a guess at number 1?
Yes.
Actually, illegal or legal?
Addictive products.
Illegal products included there, like cocaine and stuff?
I didn't say legal or illegal. I just said...
I'm going to say sugar.
Okay. Products, no.
Oh.
Not in the top 5. But maybe you're right. Maybe I've got the wrong AI. Maybe I'll lose my job. We're talking about products that increase the production of dopamine. That gives you a feel-good feeling, right? Cocaine, number 1.
Right, yep.
I'm talking medically, physically.
Yes.
Methamphetamine, heroin, nicotine, alcohol. Now, alcohol is a depressant. So too is heroin. Now, everything else I mentioned there is illegal. The number 1 product that is addictive, that's legal, is alcohol and causes more damage to society, to families, to individuals than any of the others. But cocaine is the number 1. I'm talking about a product that is super addictive. And, of course, as your body gets used to the dopamine levels, the more you need. And then the more you need, and you get no result, but you've got to keep doing it to try and get away from the withdrawal symptoms. But I thought that was interesting. Scotty Phillips, always fascinating. Tell us about the Motley Fool.
Oh, mate, you're very kind. I don't want to do too much on it.
Please, it's important.
We give investment advice and education to regular, everyday investors, people like me and you. We hopefully do it reasonably well. You can find us at fool.com.au. You can hold us stuff on the free site. There's some paid memberships as well if you want to. And there's a mailing list you can join. If you join the mailing list, you'll get some stuff from me and you'll get a lot of marketing. So full disclosure, if you consider yourself warned. It's a bit of fun. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on the socials at TMFScottP. So TMF is the Motley Fool. TMF Scott P on Twitter and Insta, and you can get me at Scott Phillips Money on Facebook.
He knows what he's talking about. I usually finish with a thought for the day, and you've just triggered one for me. Are you ready?
Go, please.
Scotty Phillips, you were mentioning rainbows when you were referring to the Laffer curve. I wrote it down. Scotty, where do bad rainbows go?
I'm not sure I should ask, but I'll play along. Where do bad rainbows go, Luke?
They go to Prism.
Love it. That's great.
But hang on.
Go on.
It's only a light sentence.
Oh, whoa. But very nicely done.
But it does give them time to reflect.
Oh, look at that. Stringing them together beautifully, Luke. I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm here all week. Can I recommend the lamb?
I'll try the veal. Try, mate.
Can I recommend the veal? I'm here all week. Scotty Phillips, I love your work. Talk soon.
Me too. Thanks, Luke. See you.
Rob McKnight's YouTube TV show McKnight Tonight. You've got to see it. I hate to say this, but I found it by accident. I was watching YouTube the other morning, and the algorithm, I guess, feeds me documentaries and news stories, which is what I want. And the first thing when I logged on was McKnight Tonight. Now, I've known about Rob McKnight for years, and he's not just a media showbiz commentator. If you watch his TV show on YouTube, he has opinions on everything, which is great. But the thing hang on, I haven't introduced you properly yet. So just hang on.
My laugh has jumped in. Sorry.
But the thing I like about Rob McKnight is you can agree with him or disagree with him, but he doesn't give a shit. He says exactly what his opinion is, and that's what I do. You know, Kelsey will edit this so YouTube accept it. But I checked my account the other day, and my balance is completely empty. I have no more left. So my account is completely deleted. And this is what I like about Rob, because he's a bit younger than me, but he's doing very, very well. So, Rob McKnight, welcome to the Bonafide Podcast, and congratulations on McKnight Tonight. It's great.
Thank you, mate. Look, I tell you what, the algorithm just in the last few days has become very good to us. We're seeing a lot more views for McKnight Tonight. We've been doing it since about February, March, and, you know, it's a pretty hard slog when you first start because you cannot penetrate that algorithm. We're slowly getting up there, and we've still got a long way to go. But yes, we have found in the last few days people like yourself finding McKnight Tonight, and we've been just slogging away.
It found me, but what I want to do is I want to encourage the Bonafide listeners, and we're on Spotify and YouTube. I want to try and point them towards you because I find it entertaining, informative, but I just love raw opinions, Rob. So again, congratulations. I think you're great, and I'm sure if you and I can talk on a semi-regular basis, we will disagree on occasions. But Christ, wouldn't life be boring if we all agreed?
Oh, and that's the thing. You know, I'm not one of these people who have to have an echo chamber, and actually, we run live feedback because it's all done from my garage, and I know people see it and think it's from a studio because I've got a monitor, I've got a set. And no, it's all in my garage. My wife sits just across from me and switches it on a program called vMix. And we've got we've got the supers, we do live crosses and all that kind of stuff. But we take live feedback. So it's like talkback radio in a sense, in that you've got that feedback coming in. And we do that, and I can react to it. And I've got core listeners and viewers who disagree with me all the time, but I don't take offense to it, and they don't take offense from me. And I'll do the plug. If you want to find it, just go to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight, and you will see, Luke, I'm actually in my McKnight Tonight t-shirt because I live in Queensland. I got my timings wrong, and we had pre-prepared to do this interview, and you called me up and said, mate, are you all good for the interview? And I was like, no, the time difference has done me in. I'm actually still in my pajamas, and yes, I wear McKnight Tonight merch.
Well, we're in the process of getting some Bonafide merch organised. The millennial, I call her the millennial, who produces the Bonafide podcast is onto that. I'm thinking, yes, Bonafide pajamas, so that and just have boner, and people can wake up with the boner.
I like that. As I take a sip from my McKnight Tonight cup,
very good,
and put on my McKnight Tonight.
Okay, well, I'll book some McKnight merch, and we'll send you some Bonafide merch when we get round to it. Look, the big story, and I guess this is why the algorithm took me straight to you on YouTube, was Kyle and Jackie O. Now, I don't know, but I've been in radio for a little while now. 18th of September 1978 was my job as an office boy at 2GB, and worked my way up from there. So I've been in the game for a little while, and I've seen lots of shenanigans. I've seen lots of stunts. I've got to be honest, I have met Kyle and Jackie O. Henderson. I met them at the Acras when they were at the Sydney Convention Centre. When was that? 2022, I think.
Yeah, I was at that one,
before they cancelled them. Yeah. By the way, I was nominated for 4. Didn't get. I won duck egg. But Kyle knew me, and in fact, I got a photo, and I'll send it to you. A photo of me and Kyle and Ben Fordham,
great,
getting very friendly and getting a little bit untidy. And I met Jackie. Actually, it was really it was a bit uncomfortable because I've known Phil O'Neill for many years.
Yes,
and Phil and I.
She's her ex-husband, of course.
Exactly. That's where the O comes from. Ugly Phil was huge on Today FM, but he gave Jackie her first start in radio. So Phil and I are having a chat and a hug and a catch up. And Jackie came out of the women's toilets and bumped into the two of us, and there she was with Phil. And next thing you know, Kyle. Anyway, these things happen at industry conventions, don't they? You run into people you like, and you run into people you wish you'd never seen. You'd hope you'd never see again. But
I ended up barefoot that night because I had new shoes and they were killing me. And I was with Sophie Formica, who I was EPing her show. And she was horrified that I dare take my shoes off. She said, "You cannot walk around barefoot." I said, "I am not wearing those shoes." She said, "If you're a woman, you would put up with it." And I said, "I ain't no woman, and I am not putting up with the pain."
I don't know why women wear them either. However, there is something that happened that night, and I'm not going to shy away from it. Mm. Whilst Kyle was engaging, polite, even humble, I'm not a fan of his style of radio. And when they were inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame, I'm not going to lie. I got up and I went outside and had a breather because I look at radio. I still call it wireless because to me it's the theatre of the mind and it's an art. It's a craft. I think of John Laws, love him or hate him, Alan Jones, who was a compelling broadcaster. I think of people like Clive Robertson. I think of people like Jack Davey. I think of John Pearce, and the list goes on. Radio icons. And most of them I was lucky enough to either work with or knew. People I hold in enormous regard, even the late Brian Wilshire.
Yep.
People I hold in enormous... Graham Kennedy was radio too, remember? And then I see Kyle and Jackie O Hall of Fame. And I think the year before, Doug Mulray was inducted, and so he should. Ian McRae should be. And I see Kyle and Jackie O and that radio show. And it did my head in. And I couldn't cope. So it's on record. I don't know either of them personally, and I'm sure they're wonderful, wonderful people. But that style of radio, to me, is an act. It's kind of like World Championship Wrestling, where they might be great athletes, but it's bullshit. Some of the things they did was more than just a bit of fun. I mean, hooking up a 14-year-old girl to a lie detector machine and asking her about her sex life and getting staff to urinate and record the sound of it, and then people got to guess who it is and stuff. And there's a long, long list. Magna Sabansky, she should lose weight by going to a concentration camp, describing women as lazy, fat slags and all that. I think the people that were drawn to that sort of thing have outgrown it. And as Kyle and Jackie get older, that kind of stuff doesn't penetrate anymore. It was certainly not embraced by Melbourne. And that's
no, but they were number one in Sydney still by a long margin. No one was even close to them. So
it's funny how
I should say FM because I keep having a go at media commentators who call them number one. So thank you for pulling me up on that. I get very annoyed when supposed radio podcasts don't include the AM wins of 2GB, Ben Fordham and Russ and Ross on Ross and Russ on 3AW, who are a compelling number one by, they're in the 20s. So I'm really glad you pulled me up on that. I have fallen into the pit that I pull other people up on. So thank you. But my point is that they are number one on the FM dial by a country mile. So where has this narrative come that there's suddenly people aren't tuning in anymore? Because, Melbourne's been a disaster, but I am actually on record as saying when it was announced they were going into Melbourne, I said, I don't know how this is going to work because Melbourne has this bitter rivalry with Sydney that isn't reciprocated the other way. Sydney doesn't really care. It's a Melbourne towards Sydney rivalry, which is fine. But how does the show go in there? Now, what I will say that I said, if anyone can make it happen, it's Kyle and Jackie O. So I was wrong on that. They didn't make it happen. But they should have gone into Brisbane first because Carl has history there. It would have been an easier transition. Brisbane is sort of aligned with Sydney. But the point here is that I understand, Luke, 100% that it's not your kind of radio, but it was radio for a lot of people. And I understand, you think about John Laws, though. When he started doing his style of radio, there were people wanting him off the radio and people campaigned for years to get Alan Jones off the radio because of his contentious views. And it's just a style thing. So I do believe Carl and Jackie O, with the amount of success they had, should be in the Radio Hall of Fame. I will disagree with you on that because what they have achieved from a production point of view, from an entertainment point of view, it was the biggest radio show in Australia, and they have had amazing success. And yes, Melbourne is a red mark on their ledger, 100%. but they have had enormous success that can't be discounted.
As I said, having been in the
We've already
radio
disagreed.
game
There
for-
you go, Luke.
I love it. I love it. But you're right, particularly Sydney, Melbourne are two very parochial markets. And not one Melbourne radio identity has been successful in Sydney, and some good broadcasters have tried, like Darren Hinch, but didn't work in Sydney. Huge in Melbourne. Lawsy, at his peak, was made many offers to have his show go into Melbourne, and he was smart enough to know, I'll stay in my lane, because Lawsy was Sydney.
Do you remember Doug Mulray had a TV show on Channel 7 on Saturday nights that did fantastic around the country except in Melbourne? And I remember him doing an editorial saying what is wrong with Melbourne and called them out for being so anti-Sydney that they wouldn't even watch a show from Sydney. It was quite an extraordinary and truthful take on what was happening, and some of that still exists today. Now, we are seeing, I think Christian O'Connell going into Sydney will actually work okay, and especially with Carl and Jackie O going, I think he will see some benefit and success. But I'll tell you what, I think the radio industry is kidding itself if they think all of those Carl and Jackie O viewers or listeners, are going to stick around. I think they will leave radio.
It's funny, because having worked at Southern Cross Oz Stereo for nearly 9 and a bit years when I was on the Triple M network.
Were you there when Carl and Jackie O left?
After they left.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of money, the obscene amount of money that Southern Cross Oz Stereo spent on replacement breakfast hosts upstairs, they could have kept them. But
they didn't want to. They said, Craig Bruce told Carl, and Carl has talked about this, Craig Bruce, the programming director, or whatever his title was, told Carl and Jackie O they reckon they've got 2 years left in their career. Now, that obviously didn't turn out to be true. Carl and Jackie O went, well, we're not going to stay in a place we're not wanted. Went and created the KISS brand. You remember, KISS did not exist before Carl and Jackie O. They went and created a whole new brand that became number one in Sydney. And you remember, Today FM, they launched the Happy campaign where people were running around singing, because I'm happy, and it was almost like Today FM celebrating that Carl and Jackie O had left. And in their wake, that station has never recovered. And that is the arrogance sometimes of executives. And I'm not specifically saying Craig, this isn't an attack on him. But what I'm saying is that there is an arrogance in executive ranks sometimes that they think brands are bigger than the personalities, and that's just not the case.
It's funny that because I was at 2GB, joined... My first gig was the Exodus Foundation OB on Christmas Day 1999.
Oh, wow.
So I was actually at 2GB in 2002, 4th of March, how's my memory, when Alan came over from 2UE. And there was dancing in the corridors at 2UE. Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. And look at that massive audience he brought with him. And I've seen it before with Lawsy when he went from 2UW to 2UE, then to 2GB, then back to 2UE, and that enormous Lawsy audience moved with him.
Yes.
And it's very rare that happens, and it did happen with Kyle and Jackie O. I'll give them that. And I did say it just isn't my style of radio. So I give them
Which
that.
is fair enough. By the way, they've got their critics. They've got the mad effing witches who are taking all the credit. This has nothing to do with them. Carl and Jackie O was going on. They have hurt advertising revenue, that is sure. ARN won out of the cumbersome contract that the new management have basically inherited from the previous management. But at the end of the day, this show has imploded because of a personality crisis between the two.
Now, I've had a chat with an employment expert about the workplace legalities surrounding this. And what does the word remedy mean when Kyle has got 14 days?
How do you remedy something that has already happened?
And I was watching you last night on YouTube. McKnight tonight, there it is again, brother.
Thank you, sir.
And I know you hold Jackie in enormous regard, but you reckon that she moved the goalposts.
Yes.
Now, I do want people to see the whole episode of you on YouTube, but just while you're here on Bonafide, yes, what Kyle said on air about her work performance and her, the dedication to the
lack
job.
of professionalism, that was a key trigger for her, I believe.
To air that is, I think, unforgivable. You have those conversations off air. But that's what Kyle does. And over the years, they've had a crack at each other.
That's what the show does. They record private conversations in the studio. They put them to air. Kyle and Jackie O have had these blow-ups before. So, yes, we all look at it. And I'm with you, by the way. That is a conversation that should have happened off air. But it's not unusual for a conversation like that to happen on air within the confines of that show.
Just for those one or two people that haven't heard the conversation, let's have a listen to it.
I don't mean to be rude, but as I said, it's fascinating, but I don't think it should be at the detriment of everything else on the show. This relentless research into the
I only just did it then. I was literally just doing it then.
It's affecting other things. Like your fixation on this has made you
only just did it,
almost
like,
unworkable.
Oh, it's not that bad, Carl.
You're not talking. I'm talking.
You do that, like that's not fair. Like
but it's actually true. You might have done that in 5 minutes, but you're off with the fairies with.
Tell me where. No. Tell me where I've been off with the fairies during the show.
I don't have to prove anything.
No, you do. You can't accuse me of doing something and then say I don't have to
listen
say
to the program. You'll hear yourself.
Oh no, just give me one example.
Be aware of what's really going on.
I am, Kyle. That I totally am offended by you saying something like that.
Too bad if you are, because that's the reality of what we're dealing with here.
Oh, that is so unfair. I have been in here doing the segment totally fine and normal.
You've had your head on that, looking into the stars. It's too much.
Because I just told you I was going to do it.
I heard all that, but it's too much. It's affecting everything else. You're too fixated on it.
What? Tell me what it affected during the show.
Every segment, every time you've spoken, you're off with you don't even know what's going on.
I would never say things like that about you. You have
too bad, because I'm not doing that.
Yeah, because you make out like you sit there like you're perfect.
No,
I'm not. There are so many things that you don't do, and I would never bring them up, and I would never say what people say.
What do you mean what I don't do?
So let's have a look at that. If that was indeed the straw that broke her back, how many other straws were there? When you talk about her saying she feels unsafe in the workplace and talks about workplace bullying, was it just this once? Or is there a long history of that behaviour that was upsetting her that management did nothing about? If so, and management did nothing about it, management's in trouble here. Workplace bullying and claiming that you feel unsafe in your workplace is a very, very serious allegation.
Yeah.
So how long has it been going on, or was it just this one-off?
There's a couple of elements here. First of all, let's talk about Jackie changing the rules, because I think this is a really big issue. You're in a relationship with someone. Cole and Jackie O are in a relationship, not a sexual relationship, but a relationship of friendship, of being co-workers for 27 plus years. And in any friendship, there are rules, okay? And their rules were pretty loose. Their rules were everything is fodder for on air. There's very little boundaries. They have open and honest conversations. That is what it is. Now, what she has done is accepted that for 27 years. And then all of a sudden, she's turned around and said, I don't accept that anymore, which is fine. That part's fine. What's not fine is to turn around, walk off the air and say, feel like I cannot work with Kyle Sandilands. I feel like I'm in an unsafe workplace. Well, Kyle's there going, hey, and what have I done wrong? This is what we've always done. This is how we've always behaved. If there was a problem, why didn't you say something to me? She has not given him the chance to rectify behaviour. Now, if 6 months ago she went to him and said, Kyle, I know this has been our shtick for 20 plus years, but it's not working for me. And I'm feeling like my contribution isn't being valued. I'm feeling like I'm being belittled on air. And as a person, as someone who's 50 years old or however old she is, that's just not what I want to be accepting as part of my life going forward. Now, he then has a choice to say, well, that's the show, put up with it. Or he says, oh, babe, sorry, because he calls her babe. You know, that's the kind of friendship they have. Mm-hmm. And he says, I will change my behaviour. And he has not, as far as we know. Now, if she's had that conversation, what I'm saying now is completely null and void, but I don't believe this conversation has happened, because if you look at his editorials after she walked out, he took responsibility, he apologised, he acknowledged it shouldn't have happened on the air, but it has never come to light. There have been no statements saying that this is a conversation they've had before. There is no doubt they've been growing apart. Everything I hear, I'm sure everything you hear, what we're seeing in the papers is that they're growing apart. There's been audio played of Jackie saying, I've been tuning out to you, Kyle. I mean, you're getting paid $10 million a year and you can't listen to the person sitting aside, to the other side of
Opposite,
you.
Yeah.
Opposite, thank you. it's a hard word, opposite. You can't sit opposite the person for $10 million and pay attention to what they're saying while you're on air. You know, I have many problems here because Kyle, again, whether you agree with anything he said, whether you like him or dislike him, just put yourself in his position for a moment. All of a sudden, you're being told you're providing an unsafe workplace and she can't work with you. And this is the relationship you've had all your life and you've been given no warnings to change behaviour. Now, people have come and attacked me since that editorial saying, misogynist view, you're attacking the victim. No, I'm not. I don't think this is a gender issue. If I'm in a friendship with someone and they suddenly turn and don't like who I am and say, you did this to me, I'm like, yeah, but you did this to, you know, that's what we've done. And they haven't given me a chance to change behaviour, well, then at what point do we say there has to be some middle ground here where you flag behaviour and give the person a chance to change? Rather, what has happened is she has obviously been triggered by the unprofessional behaviour comment because she is someone who feels that she's very professional. She's in with the producers working on the show. She's in charge of all the hiring and firing. Kyle walks in, for the show and does it, although in the last week or so he's been coming in at like 5 and looking after the show. But at the end of the day, she created that work environment, but what she's obviously not appreciated is being called unprofessional and decided she doesn't like the way Kyle's treating her. Again, fine, but to then declare she can't work with him and it's unsafe, I don't think is fair. I just don't think it's fair when we're not talking about a sexual assault here or anything or physical violence. We're talking about a relationship between two people where one person has decided they don't like the way they are being treated. Again, 100% fine. But we're talking about theatre and entertainment here as part of a radio show, and she could have changed his behaviour without having to implode the whole show. I do believe she wanted out. She'd become very disengaged. I mean, she's been earning millions for years. She's earned 10 million, 20 million in the last 2 years, and she just decided she didn't want to do it. That's fine. But what she has done is she's taken Carl down with her. And to come to your point, Luke, about ARN saying he has to remedy the situation of what has happened on Feb 20, well, how does he do that? And how does ARN go with the fact that they've allowed him to continue his employment and continue on the air? And now they're saying that he's had a serious breach of misconduct. Well, I mean, legally, and I'm sure you'll back this up with the people you've spoken to, he's got a real case to say, hang on, I did what I was employed to do. ARN obviously want out of this contract. They have been talking about brand safety for advertisers at their last financial results just the last week or so ago. So it seems to me they're deciding this is the perfect opportunity to get out. They've terminated Jackie's contract because of all this, offering her another role perhaps, which I think if she was to end up on ARN would be the role Smorsy has in the afternoon, because he does afternoon and a nighttime shift. I think it would be an easy slot for her to go into afternoons, but it looks like they're trying to get out of Kyle. Kyle would say, I haven't broken anything. This will go to court. There'll be a hefty payout, but it is the end of the Kyle and Jackie O show. And I do think it's the end of Kyle on that network too.
Wow. Yeah, because everything you say, I think is quite correct. Oh, God, we're agreeing. Damn.
We have a hashtag for that. McKnight is right.
Yeah, or Bona, have a loner. Well, you've seen Graham win 20 grand to kick off his bucket list.
You've won a $20,000 worldwide holiday.
What?
Yep.
With a great holiday, thanks to Nature Bee.
I never win anything.
Now, it's your turn. You could be heading to the Cook Islands with a wonderful stay at the Edgewater Resort and Spa. Sun by the pool, island night buffets, and long romantic walks on the beach with your chosen travel partner.
Oi, what are you doing? Turn that off.
Here's all you got to do. Spend $79.90 on any Nature Bee product just to go in the draw. You've heard Rod bang on about the powers of Nature Bee.
We've discussed how hard it is to get decent meals on the road. I had a power shake for breakfast on Friday, mate.
What did you think?
No, they're very good.
And now there's the Power Bee meal replacement shakes. It's to make getting good nutrition Even easier, under $6 a meal. Yeah, Rod and I might be the power couple on the highway, but for your health, it's got to be Power Pollen and the Power Bee Shake. And Nature Bees also knocked off 10% for you legends out there watching this. All you have to do, use the code LUKE10 at checkout. Jump onto naturebee.com, sort your health out, and get yourself in the running for that Cook Islands holiday today. Details are in the description. Always use in conjunction with a good diet and regular exercise. I think that if he has been able, if that's part of the shtick and part of the way the show rolls, and that's been going on for a long time, to suddenly crack down on it now and get rid of him. Kyle, I think, I'm no lawyer, but Kyle, I think, probably has a case for unfair dismissal.
Everything I've heard from workplace lawyers says that it's an absolute case. They may end up having to pay out his contract, which is going to be something in the tune of $80 million, and he doesn't have to do the show. I don't think he wants to retire. It's not all about the money for him. He loves the money. I think in that case, he would go and do a Howard Stern and create a subscription service.
Oh, without a doubt. Oh, without a doubt, because, yes, he won't need the money, but he will go through enormous relevance deprivation.
Absolutely.
He's a performer.
Yep.
He's a performer. I think you're 100%. I don't know if any radio station trying to preserve a license and attract advertisers will take him, because he wouldn't be him. And I think you're 100%. I think the Howard Stern independent thing is the way Kyle will go. And then, it's up to him to attract advertisers. Just get Rob McKnight's with me. Rob, explain to our listeners who the mad effing witches are. They went for Alan Jones as well, and I know management at 2GB at the time were absolutely petrified that they would lose blue ribbon sponsors that were being hounded by this organisation. So can you explain who they are and what sort of influence the mad effing witches have?
So they are a group who basically try to step in where they think people are crossing the line. It's named after what a politician called Samantha Maiden. So in a text that actually went to Samantha Maiden, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who the politician was, sent a text that wasn't meant to go to Samantha Maiden, the political journalist at news.com.au, calling her a mad effing witch. Now, this group has picked up on that term, and basically they use that as their inspiration to try and basically get shows and people taken off the air that they disagree with. Now, they will say they don't try to get people removed. That is not entirely true. As you said, they attacked Alan Jones, and it does seem to be a lot of it political, but a lot of it perceived misogynism. Like, that's the big claim against Kyle and the vile Kyle and the content that he does, which, let's be honest, Kyle has pushed the boundaries. And I will tell you something. In my younger days, I used to love listening to Kyle and Jackie O. My wife and I would be driving to work. We'd have it on all the time. But there is no way that with young kids, I've got kids, 3 girls ranging in age from 13 to 18. There is no way I would have that content on my radio in the morning. And I do like Carl and Jackie O. I think they are amazing performers, but they still have a significant audience. But the mad effing witches have attacked the sponsors. So what they do, instead of trying to campaign radio stations, they do a list of all the sponsors, and they go to those sponsors and saying, how can you support this misogynism, this talk about vaginas and pubic hair and all that kind of stuff? Do you really want your brand associated with that? Us and our supporters are not going to take part in any of your products. We're not going to buy your products. And so that's their modus operandi. And in some respects, it's very effective. Now,
they're pretty organised, aren't they?
They really are. And they will have people that just volunteers who will sit there and take down all the advertisers and all the things that have been said. They were doing it to Sky News and News Corp, and Sky News has called them out as well because they didn't like the right-leaning and perceived far-right leanings of Sky News. And so forget the idea of political expression in our country, which is our right. We all have the right to political expression, and you don't have to agree with it, but they have certainly been very active in trying to get people cancelled. They're claiming responsibility for this. Look, it's not, because Carl and Jackie O had a contract and that would have kept going if Jackie hadn't left. Carl, if Jackie had stayed on the air, this would have been a one-day story and they'd still be going. But there's no doubt the mad effing witches have put pressure on companies like Nine Radio because there are some advertisers that capitulate to them. Other advertisers are saying, you know what, you keep saying it, but it doesn't hurt our bottom line. We're fine. Other advertisers will say it's just not worth the hassle, so we won't advertise on Carl and Jackie O. But you've got the secondary factor that a company like ARN, as I said, previous management did this deal because SCA, Southern Cross Austereo, were making overtures to get Carl and Jackie O back, which when you think about it is just insane considering how happy they were to get it. So they drove the value of Carl and Jackie O up. ARN's previous management made that decision that we'll do a 10-year, $200 million contract with the plan to go national, and basically we're going to put all our eggs in one basket. It was a mistake. There is no doubt about that.
Massive mistake.
Carl and Jackie O are worth a lot of money, but $10 million a year each is just extraordinary. We will never see that kind of deal again. And when the new management of ARN came in, they went, we're stuck with this deal. This is ridiculous. And they've had to go back. They were getting rid of the breakfast show, Robin, Kip and Corey in Brisbane. That decision got taken back. But weirdly, they weren't going to put Carl and Jackie O in. They were going to put Lowy in. In fairness to ARN, I think they made the right decision in walking back that decision. And Robin, Kip and Corey are back on the air, and that was announced over Christmas. They returned in January. But the Carl and Jackie O expansion plans has not borne out. A lot of people have lost their jobs through redundancies to pay for it. And now the current ARN management are trying to, people are saying they're doing cartwheels. I don't think they're doing cartwheels, but they are seeing an opportunity to bring down their budget if they can, like the Jackie's done, so that money is now saved. There would have been some kind of payout. Maybe she got the $10 million for this year and she got that payout, who knows? But, they would certainly be looking for a way out with Kyle. They do not want to pay this $10 million. Kyle and Jackie O are on separate contracts, so it does not depend on one being there with the other. And so Kyle has every right to assume that he can continue doing the Kyle show, or King Kyle, whatever he would like to call it. He has that right to keep, in his view, and I don't speak for Kyle, I'm not on the inside of his camp or anything like that. I would assume he feels he has the right to keep doing the show in the morning with or without Jackie. He'd prefer it to be with Jackie, but ARN are seeing an opportunity to cut a cumbersome contract, which is what this serious misconduct is about. But how they can justify it in a court of law, well, that's going to be interesting. This story, I'm telling you now, this is going to drag on and on for a long time. And ARN's ratings will not be the same. Whatever show they put in there, it's Today FM all over again. I cannot think, and you're the bigger radio man than me, I cannot think of anyone you could put in there that could draw even close to the ratings that Carl and Jackie O have built in Sydney.
No, but it's an interesting reflection on the industry I love, and that is radio ain't quite what it used to be.
No, it's not.
And you look at the growing popularity of podcasts. Now, all my kids who are now 30 and a little bit more all listen to podcasts. They don't listen to any free-to-air radio because they can pick and choose the music they want on Spotify or whatever.
That's it.
And they can listen to the talk personalities and the stories they want to hear. They can personalize what they listen to at any time of the day with their headphones on while they're at work, and play their style of music and listen to whatever song in whatever order, and pick and choose it. And the thing about radio is the advertising pie hasn't gotten bigger. The slices have got smaller.
Correct.
And I think also the downturn.
Well, sorry, the pie's the same. You're right. The pie's the same, but those slices are smaller because there's so many other places for those advertisers to go, and traditional media, television included, in this country. Yeah, and I see that's exactly what you were saying. So sorry.
Thanks for that, Rob. By the way, I grew up in the advertising world too because my father, Brian Bona, was the art director for an advertising agency called WB Lawrence, which went on to be Lawrence Burnett. You know the Westpac Red W?
Yes.
That's Dad's.
No.
The Razzmatazz Stockings rainbow? That's Dad's.
I remember that.
Well,
what a legacy.
So I grew up surrounded by advertising and methods and strategies, and I never look at an ad without going, what is the product? Who are they marketing it at? What demographic?
So you would love things like the Amazon logo, which has a little arrow in it going from A to Z.
Yeah.
You know, little details like that. You would love those kind of things in advertising.
It's all strategic.
Talk about off topic. Sorry, I've gone on it.
We can have another episode on all of this stuff, Rob, because I love this subject. But
great.
You know, when I started in radio in 1978, on the 18th of September, the main forms of advertising was radio, television, magazines, newspapers, and possibly billboards.
Yep.
And that was it.
Correct.
Now look at it, and the advertising budgets aren't getting bigger. The products are going to say, and the agencies are going to go, well, how do we divide up this budget? Where's the best place to put it? And, you know, so it's a different landscape. I completely get that. And maybe the rise of podcasts is a good thing because, mind you, and you're a relatively new podcaster, we don't have to answer to ACMA, but we still have direct responsibility for defamation, libel, contempt of court.
Yeah, the rules of the land still apply.
I wanted to talk to you about ACMA. For those who don't know, it's the Australian Communications and Media Authority, which is really kind of like a toothless tiger. Free-to-air radio loves being non-regulatory. And it doesn't want governments interfering with radio policy. However, ACMA is supposed to be who they report to, and yet Kyle has broken ACMA rules over and over and over again, and nothing happened. And management have let it. They put in a 30-second delay for him and all of that. But it is non-regulatory. It is really, really interesting to hear you say you don't think Kyle will be back because other media commentators are saying, oh, of course he will. I don't think he will either.
Well, here's the thing. The relationship the relationship with ARN has broken down overnight. All of a sudden, he's been served cause for a breach of serious misconduct, which in the week and a half that Jackie had gone had obviously never come up. He was still allowed to continue. ARN's lawyers are looking for a way to get out of that contract. There is no doubt of that. But when it comes to ACMA, there is a pressure because there is a ruling from ACMA coming about severe licence conditions being placed on ARN because of content in the Carl and Jackie O show. They've been found in breach, and what we're all waiting for is to see what the final ruling is. That has not come to light, but that is hanging over ARN's head, and so that is also a factor here that they are having stringent licence conditions. Now, look, is ACMA really going to pull the licence off someone? Probably not, but if they get to a point of frustration with this show, which they are at, there is the possibility that they could say to ARN, you are off air for the week. Now, imagine a week where a company like ARN cannot generate any advertising and what that does to the bottom line. A week's worth of advertising, maybe it's a day, I don't know, but there is no doubt that the show would have to have changed because ARN has to think about the greater business. It is bigger than two people, although those two people, Carl and Jackie O, were huge, a huge part of that business. It created the whole KISS identity. But there are these elements hanging over the head, which is why ARN may walk away. Now, if Kyle's a free agent, no one's going to pay him the $10 million a year that he was on. He's lost his sidekick, Jackie O. Is Kyle as good without Jackie O? I think he is, but he does have that buffer with her to create good radio. But does it become too Boise? I genuinely think Kyle's best play is the subscription service like Howard Stern.
Yeah. Does he need a buffer, a sidekick? I think he does. I think a yin needs a yang, and she was perfect. But it all went to hell. Well, I tell you what, if Prince Andrew wanted a diversion, the war in Iran and Carl and Jackie O's.
Who can believe this all started with a conversation about Prince Andrew?
If the royal family wanted a diversion, Trump took care of that on the national level with Iran, and we here in Australia, Carl and Jackie O, have taken the heat off the royal family as well. There are a lot more important things to talk about. But Rob McKnight, it's been an absolute pleasure. Please, once again, folks, have a look at his TV show on YouTube, McKnight Tonight. It's fantastic. And what about you and I talk every now and then about other stuff?
Yeah, mate. I've loved this chat. I'm up for a chat with you anytime. You're a good fella. And again, apologies for being late. I'm usually very good
with
the time difference.
No one knows.
I know, but I like to own up to these things. I'm an honest man.
No, you're in Queensland. Hey, listen, I did a national radio show on the Triple M network. I had 71 transmitters to play with, which is dangerous.
Oh, wow.
When you consider the independents, the Resonate network and the independent stations. And so I'm broadcasting right around Australia, and I didn't do time calls because of the time differences. I just said, bugger it, look at your watch.
I tell you what, you're going to have to come on McKnight tonight and tell me some of these stories because you are a fascinating man. So I'll ask you on air so you can't say no.
I will. And why don't we take some calls? And can you do the same for me? Because we're going to do another live Bonafide on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And you come on and we'll take some calls. Incidentally, you've got former radio giant Alan Jones facing serious allegations. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. As I said, I was at 2GB from 2GB 1978, 1980. Then I did the Bush circuit, came back 2000 to 2012. So I was there for a fair bit of Alan when he first came over from 2UE. I saw some odd behaviour. I never saw anything of a sexual manner go on. I saw bullying. Yeah. I saw behaviour that wouldn't be accepted in any other workplace, not just from him, but from other broadcasters, one in particular. And I'm happy to talk about that on another day. But Alan Jones facing some very, very serious allegations. And if you read Chris Masters' book, isn't it funny that Alan, when that book was released, and I don't know if you can buy it anymore, if you can, try and have a read of it. Isn't it funny that Alan never once went to sue him?
No, because truth is a defence.
Well, he would have had to get into court. He would have been under oath. And, well, it's a different thing then, isn't it? But it'll be interesting to watch what happens there. And you and I will be watching it very, very closely. We can talk about it. But we are only to talk about what happens in court. We can't speculate.
Absolutely. I understand defamation laws. And look, when you're talking about live podcasts...
And contempt of court. Hey, listen, defamation and libel, civil. Yes. Contempt of court, you can go to jail. Contempt of court's criminal. It's the worst. I was talking to a young intern at Channel 7 because I do Sunrise every Friday and when required. Yes. If I didn't do it, I'd have relevance deprivation, even worse. and she's studying journalism at UTS. What is it?
I think UTS, University of Technology, Sydney.
Yeah, Kelsey went there. She's doing journalism. And I asked her, I said, what is the worst breach out of libel, defamation or contempt of court? She said, they're all the same. I said, no. And they hadn't taught her that. She was in the second year of journalism.
It's the basics, isn't it?
Anyway. So we say in Australia we have freedom of speech. Well, we do so long as you go within the parameters of the law. But with the wicked witches, what are they called again?
The mad effing witches, although they don't censor it.
Isn't it funny how they really do attack conservative right-wing broadcasters, and yet they seem to forget that the ABC completely shatters its charter by being apolitical. It is so far left, it's not funny, and no one talks about that, and that's funded by taxpayers. It's not funded by advertisers. It's funded by taxpayers, and the ABC, which is the most left-wing thing I've ever heard. Go watch Q&A in 7:30 if you want, and no one touches that.
No, and it's an interesting thing because people say, well, why is the ABC being held? Why are people making an issue about their views? Well, because it is publicly funded and they're not supposed to have views, really. They're meant to just inform. But you mentioned you're going to do a live one. Can I do one quick plug? I have just launched a new service called Video Podcasting Services, and what it does, because video has become a big part of podcasting now. And if you look at what's happening on YouTube, Netflix is taking on video podcasts, and in the US, not here in Australia yet. But I have the technology. You've seen McKnight tonight. You've seen what I can do. Well, I'm offering that as a service to podcasters who want to be able to do video, want to be able to do live crosses, want to have the boxes and everything like that. And it's just go and have a look. It's videopodcast.online. And I want to see people embrace video because that is where podcasts are heading.
Yeah. See, I'm a dinosaur, so people need people like you. And my millennial Kelsey, who is an absolute genius. She does
a fantastic job.
She was at Listener, She came out of uni and had a few jobs, but she was organising podcasts at Listener, and she's just a genius. It's all beyond me. I call her the millennial. And when something goes wrong, even though I'm doing exactly what she tells me, if I follow her instructions absolutely to the letter and it doesn't work, her excuse is, "Oh, it's a glitch." So she's also got the nickname the glitch. So yeah, if I'm.
Well, the crazy thing is we recorded this whole episode and had to redo it because she forgot to hit record. No, I'm joking.
Oh, it's happened to me.
It's happened to all of us.
I have got some stories, but we'll get together again. We should get together over a beer one day because without anything recording.
Sounds good.
Hey, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I love what you're doing, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Luke. Absolute pleasure. You call me up anytime you want. I will more than happy be here. And next time, I'll be on time.
Time for entertainment with Mr. Entertainment. Shane Adam-Basset, entertainment reporter with Sky News and a million other radio stations around the place. I'm amazed he has time to talk to little old me, but boy, am I glad he does. So it's time to get him back into the studio to talk about stuff that we need to watch and stuff to avoid. Shane Adam-Basset, welcome back, brother.
Hello, mate. Lovely to be here, Luke, as always. Thanks for the introduction, and hello, everyone watching and listening.
Okay, got a question for you. Do you see, when you go to the cinema, God, I'm old-fashioned. When you go to the movies, to a movie theatre, am I tipping that you would see most of those movies on your own, or do you take a plus one?
No, I pretty much am on my own 95% of the time. Occasionally I'm with a mate or, a partner or whatever, but it depends on the situation. A lot of the movies I go to, as you know, are in advance as well. So they're media screenings and stuff. So they're just individual. No, I actually get a little distracted if I'm with someone else, and I hate to say that. It's probably why I'm, always single on and off. Like can't go anywhere, especially movies, unless I've already seen a movie with someone. I know that sounds weird, but I like to just concentrate and get into it. And if I'm with someone, I'm probably worried about they don't like it, or they might talk, or stuff like that. It's very pedantic, but I think I've just been growing up watching movies my whole life, and that's how I've developed and made it into a career. But I'm so focused during every film. I do sit back and relax and watch the movie, though. I'm not analysing everything. But, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, 95% of the time I'm by myself.
Because there are some movies, I reckon, that are better with someone next to you because, like, if it's a comedy, you look at each other, you laugh, you share it. And if it's a really sad movie, sometimes it's good if you're alone because you don't want to get emotional. I reckon that the movie experience in the cinema is completely different depending on how full that cinema is. If it's a full cinema, once again, I'll use a comedy, for example. You know how nearly every sitcom in the history of television has a laugh track? That's because comedy seems funnier when other people are laughing.
Right.
And Americans were the groundbreakers in the laugh track because Americans love to have comedy where here's the setup, here's the punchline, here is where you need to laugh. And here's an interesting piece of trivia for you. When MASH first started, the TV series spin-off from the famous movie, didn't have a laugh track, and it struggled. And as soon as they put the laugh track on, the ratings started to go up. Now, I don't know if there's a correlation there, but it seems to me that nearly every sitcom you see has a laugh track, or a lot of those sitcoms, like Everybody Loves Raymond and Seinfeld, a lot of it was shot in front of a studio audience for their real reaction, kind of like a live focus group.
You're right. I always thought that Seinfeld and Happy Days and that was in front of a live audience, but it wasn't always the case. I'm not sure.
Well, Seinfeld was. I don't know if it was from season 1, but the majority of the scenes in Seinfeld in Jerry's flat, that's a stage, and also the cafe, that's a stage with an audience in front of it. But all the street shots and all those other shots, obviously no audience. But I don't know. Is comedy funnier with a laugh track? If you told the same joke delivered the same way by the same comedian, is it funnier if other people are laughing?
I don't know, because look at the success of a show like The Office, right? That has no laugh. That has no laugh track, but it's also filmed in a different way than those traditional I Love Lucy and Happy Days and shows are.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily agree. I think in a cinema, if you're watching comedy, it can be funnier when there's all these people around you laughing. I always remember Meet the Parents, Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro. I saw that in a packed house around Christmas, the year that was released, and it brought the house down. And I think I liked it more because I was with an audience. But the laugh track, I don't know. At times, I don't watch a lot of TV, a lot of sitcoms, so I can't be an aficionado, but I don't think the laugh track does its job on me to make it funnier.
I often finish each podcast with a thought for the day.
Yep.
I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to get Kelsey to put a laugh track on my thought for the day, and then I'll do then I'll do exactly the same thought for the day without the laugh track, and we'll let our listeners vote.
That's true.
I bet you they come back saying neither were funny. So there you are.
You can be funny, Luke. You surprise me. Well, not surprise me, but you make me laugh, and it takes a lot for me to laugh. You know, when I watch movies and TV shows, comedy, and I've said this before, is my most subjective. I'm harsh on, critical comedies because I just don't laugh a lot. Not that I don't have a sense of humour, so you can make me laugh. That's a bonus.
Well, I've got to tell you, some of the funniest, most brilliantly written, brilliantly acted comedy, Australian comedy, has no laugh track. And it would be ruined if it did. And I'm talking about Rob Sitch and Working Dog Promotions.
Yeah.
Frontline. Yeah. Utopia. Anything with Kitty Flanagan in it. No laugh track, but you just really... The writing and the acting and the timing is so good. So that doesn't need a laugh track.
Was the Paul Hogan show with a live audience?
Some of the intros and outros were, but the majority of the Paul Hogan show were skits that were filmed separately involving John Cornell, Delvine Delaney, and that small ensemble that they had. And most of that were funny skits, but they would sometimes overdub a laugh track. Interesting. Auntie Jack didn't have a laugh track.
I don't know what Auntie Jack is. Is that around the same time?
Are you serious?
I don't think so.
Okay, the Auntie Jack show was groundbreaking television for Australia, and it started on the ABC. And in fact, when the ABC went to colour, it was the Auntie Jack show that piloted that. And if you go back, I want you to do something for me, Shane Adam-Basset. I want you to go to YouTube at some point and look for Auntie Jack Goes Colour. And that what they did was, the show is in black and white, and slowly the colour comes up from the floor. And they're going, Auntie Jack, we're being... And it morphed right there in front of Australia. That's how the ABC first broadcast colour. And it was on the Auntie Jack show. Yes, it was Graham Bond and
I
Rory...
thought that, yeah, the name came to mind, Graham Bond.
Yeah, and Rory O'Donoghue, who played Finn Arthur, and Gary McDonald, who was the Kid Eager, and, of course, Norman Gunston. And it was out there. It was absolutely out there. Yeah, and remember to tune in every time this week. And if you don't, I'm going to jump through the television and rip your bloody arms off.
Okay.
Rip your bloody arms off. And the censors had a problem with that because bloody was a swear word back then.
Swear word.
I got to know Rory O'Donoghue quite well in the year 2000. Sadly, he took his life through depression, which is just tragic, but such a talented... Rory O'Donoghue and Graham Bond had an advertising agency for a while, and they wrote jingles. And this is before Mojo. I'll give you an example. Kimbies. That's Graham Bond and Rory O'Donoghue. So there you are.
Sadly, comedians have a long history of depression, even though they're funny. Look at Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
A great example.
Yeah. I guess to be that outrageous and zany, you have to be a bit manic.
Of course.
You look at Jim Carrey. So everyone has their demons. It's so important to speak out and share that you're not feeling right, because Robin Williams, Rory O'Donoghue, and sadly the list goes on. It's just tragic.
It sucks, yeah.
Shall we talk about other things now?
Yeah, well, I've got a little bit of music side of things for you today. I know how much you love your songs.
Well, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm going to upset a lot of people here. While I admit that Elvis Presley had an enormous presence, not the world's best actor, but he was only cast in films that suited his character, but he was a very, very good singer. I'm not the biggest Elvis fan.
Me either.
The fact of the matter is, a lot of Elvis's early hits were Black American songs that were banned on Southern radio stations if a Black American sang them. His songs weren't banned because he was white. That pisses me off. That pisses me off.
Yeah.
And also, Elvis never wrote a song in his life. They had many, many hits. But then again, my argument falls down because neither did Frank Sinatra. And he was, he had...
Chairman of the board.
Chairman of the board. But I look at people around at the time of Elvis's hits, like Little Richard, Nat King Cole, Chuck Berry, a lot of wonderful black musicians that really, really struggled and wrote their own song. Fats Domino, Fats Waller, Ella Fitzgerald.
Yeah. I'm familiar with all these people, that Aretha Franklin, another one.
A little bit later, absolutely, absolutely. But look, there's going to be a lot of interest in this. It's the Elvis Epic. And this is this new movie, which is in cinemas now, directed by Australian Baz Luhrmann. Let's have a listen to the trailer.
There's been a lot written and a lot said, but never from my side of the story.
You know Baz Luhrmann went to my high school, don't you, for a little while?
Oh, no, I didn't know that. Was he just as flamboyant then as he is now?
Apparently, yes. He wasn't in my circle of friends, but we knew him and his brother Robbie, Narrabeen Boys High. But boy, oh boy, he's done well for himself, hasn't he?
Look, you're right. And having interviewed him a couple of times, he's a lovely bloke and he's really passionate about what he does. Romeo and Juliet, for me, is my favourite that he's done, but they've all been pretty good. And I was on the set of Moulin Rouge too, back when that was getting filmed in Sydney. Amazing. What? I know. I was on the set at Fox Studios, was in Sydney. I used to do a lot of tours around there. They don't do it anymore. I used to be like a tour guide and walk around the sets and take VIPs. And Moulin Rouge was one of the movies getting made at the time.
They didn't give you a small part like Kramer in Seinfeld. These pretzels are making me thirsty. You could have done that.
That's about my limit. I mean, people ask me actually, why don't I act or whatever, but that's not me. I'm a journalist and a movie analyst, so I can't act. But
no.
I know I love the business of Hollywood and the movies and side of things, but no. But
I think you could. I think you could. I think you're creative and flamboyant, and I think you would deliver the line, "These pretzels are making me thirsty," brilliantly. But anyway, back to the movie.
Well, I'm in your boat. I don't dislike Elvis Presley, but I'm also not a huge fan, and that goes along with a few other famous bands and singers as well. I have a very particular taste, I guess. But this movie is a resurrection of footage that basically I don't think's been seen before. It's got permission from the Presley estate to use a lot of the concert footage, and it was from when he was in residency at Vegas in the 70s. So this is all new stuff, and he's expanded it, made it look like brand new footage, and you're in the front row of this concert as well as being backstage in that. But it's actually pretty impressive what Baz Luhrmann's managed to do. And he did make the Elvis movie a couple of years ago now with Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. That was a good movie, but that was a movie. This is more of a documentary concert of the residency in Vegas. And look, he's got some good songs. Suspicious Minds is my favorite, probably. But yeah, it's just an example of what you can do now with modern technology, making things new again. So fans of Elvis are all over it. It's been a big box office hit already, and eventually it'll go to streaming and people will watch it there. So, yeah, I'd check it out. And it's called Epic because it's Elvis Presley in concert, EPIC.
Is it getting more bums on seats than Melania Trump's Epic?
Well, it is over here because it's Melania only lasted a week and a bit in cinemas. It lasted a little bit longer in the States, but I've seen Melania. I don't know if we've discussed that, but yeah, that was an interesting thing. Again, not an Elvis fan, but I was impressed what Baz Luhrmann put together here.
Okay. Score time. How many stars out of 5?
3. Yeah, it's 3 stars.
3.
You get a very nice view of his white jumpsuit and the gemstones.
All right. Do you actually hear the line, "Elvis has left the building"? Is that line in it?
Don't recall hearing it.
Come on.
It might be. I was with a crowd that was cheering and having a great time, but I think I would have heard it. It may have been, but I didn't catch it if it is. It's a great line. What a line.
Let's see if we can't hear it one more time, whether it's in the movie or not.
All right. Elvis has left the building.
Mate, I want to talk to you about a documentary that's on Prime Video right now. It's called Man on the Run. Now, before you give us the rundown, let's have a listen.
The Beatles have been my whole life, really. When we split up, I thought, I'll never write another note of music ever. And now we're off on another journey. We'd had arguments and all of that, but we'd loved each other all our lives.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's this about?
Paul McCartney after the Beatles. So here's another controversial statement that I've never been a huge Beatles fan either. I know, what's wrong with me? I was much more Rolling Stones than in that era.
All right.
But you know what? This is an interesting look at how Paul McCartney changed after the Beatles, and it was the phenomenon that the Beatles were. It doesn't really touch on that as much as it focuses on Paul and life after the Beatles in the 70s with Wings. Now, Wings, to me, when I think of Wings, I think of Live and Let Die, the James Bond theme, movie related. But, he met Linda. There was a whole lot of change. The music was different. He was writing. But this is an intimate documentary, a lot of music in it as well. But again, a really good, interesting chat with Paul and his recollection of what was going on, footage from then and now. So I don't know, are you a Beatles or Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney fan?
Massively. They're really early stuff. I used to go to the record store with my pocket money and buy singles. No, I did like the Beatles, but I loved Paul McCartney and Wings. I loved Band on the Run, which is where this title comes from.
Yeah, it's a take on the title. Yeah, Man on the Run, Band on the Run.
Yeah, and Venus and Mars. I love that album. But no, he's an amazingly prolific songwriter that could write for all kinds of genres, even James Bond movies. So look, there you are. Live and Let Die, remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, that was Live and Let Die was Roger Moore's first James Bond movie in around, I reckon, 71, maybe 72.
So it's called Man on the Run, intimate documentary surrounding the life and music of Sir Paul McCartney. How many stars?
Look, we just talked about Elvis. I gave that 3. I'm going to give this 2.5 stars because I think there's a little bit more music in the Elvis one, but this one goes deep into Paul's thoughts and the changes that happened after the Beatles. So I think fans will love it.
We're going very musical today with Shane Adam-Basset, entertainment reporter, because now we're bringing it back home. We did at first with Baz Luhrmann, but we're bringing it really back home with Livid Up Mental. It's the Mental as Anything story. It's a documentary, and it's coming soon. I think it will have limited release. Let's have a listen.
Question 1. How many singles of yours have featured in the Australian Top 40 charts?
22.
Yes, Reg!
Welcome, Mental as Anything.
When the Mental started, we put blind faith in just about everything.
We're never a punk band, but we all got spat on plenty of times.
I'd figured out I'd approximately had about 25,000 joints.
Yeah, I grew up with the Mentals, and I, over the years, got to interview Greedy Smith and Martin Plaza many, many times because they often visited regional radio. And I got to know Greedy really, really well before he tragically passed away. But gee whiz, I found an old poster online, Narrabeen Antler, and the line, there were 3 bands in one night. This is our local pub, and I think the poster is 1978. Australian Crawl, Midnight Oil, Mental as Anything, and Spy versus Spy. So what a night that would have been at the Narrabeen Antler. So that's 1978. They've been around for a long, long time.
I remember the movie, the band posters being on like light poles a lot.
Of course.
I see less of them now, but I remember that as a kid. Now, this is a true documentary. This has been years in the making. Mental as Anything have got a cult following. I think they've done more gigs than probably any other band, considering the span of how long they've been around. A party band. They love being known as a party band. And this documentary is a lovingly it's a good timing, actually, because it's an upbeat. It's very upbeat, like the band themselves. And Paul Greedy, I mean, he passed away suddenly, and I never got to meet any of them. Reg Mombassa, I know the guy behind Mambo as well. It's a really fascinating look. Now, I'm not sure how well it's going to do in the cinemas. It's getting a limited cinema release. There'll be fans that go and see it, but it'll be more popular, I think, once it hits streaming. Be that as it may, I've seen it. It's very upbeat, fun. I learned a few things. I didn't know a lot about Mental as Anything. I'd seen them. I've actually seen them in the past, but just never, not my kind of band, I guess, but they've always been there and they seem like good blokes. So it's an interesting documentary and Australian made, of course.
There's a song that I want you to listen to again, and I want you to listen to it twice. I hate giving you homework because you have enough.
No, I'm writing things down here with the pen.
Okay. Now, one of their big hits was The Nips Are Getting Bigger. Started out just drinking beer. When I worked on the Triple M network, they had a thing that was really good. It was Unplugged Sunday, Acoustic Sunday, or nearly Acoustic Sunday. And there's a version of Mental as Anything playing The Nips Are Getting Bigger, but just acoustically and much slower. And you're forced to listen to the song from a different angle. Same lyrics, same melody. And it's about alcoholism. And if you listen to the slow acoustic version, you'll never listen to the first version the same again. It's not a party song. It hit me. I was driving on one Sunday morning to take the dog for a walk, and this acoustic version of The Nips Are Getting Bigger, Mental as Anything, and I couldn't get out of the car. I'd never heard it like that before. Would you give it a listen and tell me what you think?
Certainly will, because I didn't know it was about that issue of, alcoholism. So obviously it makes sense the Nips Are Getting Bigger, but I found it to be an upbeat party song. So yes. I'll have to chase that up. And I love the fact that a lot of bands do this. They'll change up their songs and do a really toned down version, and it can be a completely different or new song. It's good.
Okay, listen to the first. You don't need to listen to the first one. You know it well.
Yeah.
Listen to the slow acoustic version of it, and you'll go, wow, I'm listening to this song for the first time. It's amazing.
I love Live It Up, the song that the documentary is named after. That's the song that probably took them overseas as bigger hits. And the song was in Crocodile Dundee as well. It was featured on the soundtrack. So that's, and I love the film clip too. They got all the bright, beautiful suits on. Yeah. It was my favorite Mental as Anything song, Live It Up. But I'll get on that acoustic version. It was good that Triple M did that.
Now, we'll get to the Oscars soon, but I want to talk to you about a movie called Christy, which is available on the digital platforms. This is amazing. This is the true story of Christy Martin and her journey as a boxing champion, but an abuse survivor. Let's have a listen.
You must be the lady I've been hearing so much about.
Yes, sir. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. King.
Well, tell me about yourself. Jesse here says that you fight in all pink.
I'm from West Virginia.
What's that got to do with pink?
Take us through this. This is fascinating.
Absolutely. Now, boxing movies are usually pretty good. They're normally great stories and whatever, their triumph. But this one being a true story, and this Christy Martin, who I knew very little about until I saw the movie, and I've also read her book as well about her life. She's had abuse from her husband. She was shot and knifed by him, left for dead. Don King was her manager for a long time. The great
God.
I know. And in the book and the movie tells you about him. She got ripped off quite a lot for different scenarios. So, but she was a champion for a while and just amazing. And you think of $1 Million Baby as well with Clint Eastwood, similar aspects, family life, abuse, and just different things that were happening. But she triumphed and she came out of it the other side. She was on the TV show Roseanne, so she only did a little bit of acting herself. But this movie, Christy, stars Sydney Sweeney, who I've always said is an underrated, absolutely great actor. She's in The Housemaid recently, Americana. She's in Euphoria, this TV show. She's in a lot of stuff, but she doesn't get the accolades she should. I think behind the scenes or politically, she's probably offside with people. However, as Christy Martin, this is an excellent movie. Unfortunately, it was a flop at the cinemas. It's now available to watch on digital platforms. You can rent it or buy it. Streaming, must-see movie. I loved it. It is really, really good, but it's harsh as well. Christy's life was not pretty, but Sydney Sweeney as an actor really does become the boxer. It's not just all about sport.
Okay, I will look forward to that because some of the biggest movies of all time have been boxing movies, and you can't go past 1976 and Rocky, and on no budget at all. It was the making of Stallone, and then that franchise. But you think about Robert De Niro, Raging Bull. you think about $1 Million Baby. Can you call Hurricane a boxing movie?
Yeah, the Hurricane was about the boxer and him getting falsely accused. So you could call it a bit of a boxing movie themes. One I always recommend that people don't know of is called Southpaw with Jake Gyllenhaal. That's a must-see movie if you love boxing films. But not everyone likes them, and I get it. Not everyone likes sport movies in general, or if it's baseball or NFL or whatever it might be. But give Christy a go. Christy Martin's story is sensational, and the book as well. If you still read, like many of us, like myself, still read books, it's worth checking out.
How many stars?
4. Movie
4
of the
stars.
week.
That's your movie of the week. So.
I can't praise it enough. It should have more eyeballs on it. It didn't do well when it was at cinemas last year. As I said, it didn't do well, but now it's streaming. People should check it out.
Shane, before we get to the Oscars and Australia's hopes, we've lost 2 incredible people since we last spoke, Catherine O'Hara and the great Robert Duvall. Wow. And how sad.
Yeah, I didn't realise we hadn't spoken since Catherine O'Hara. I know Robert Duvall was a little bit more recent, but Catherine O'Hara, actually, as of yesterday, she just won a SAG Actor Award after passing away for a show called The Studio, and Seth Rogen went up and did the speech and just thanked, apparently he had it ready to go in case she won, and it was really, really touching and sad. So if you ever get a chance, have a listen to that acceptance speech by Seth Rogen, because he and her had a lot of time together on the show The Studio. But yeah, Catherine O'Hara was hilarious, very funny.
Can I just say this? I have to plead ignorance. We've all seen the Home Alone movies, but I didn't even realise. I paid no attention to the mother of the family. She was the mum in Home Alone. But it was Schitt's Creek where I thought she was outstanding. That's where I got to know and love her. Am I on my own on this?
No, that's one of those comedies, though, that I did not watch a lot. I know how popular it was at one awards, but you're not alone. People probably did discover her on Schitt's Creek. I will remember her going way back to Beetlejuice. She was in the first Beetlejuice.
Oh, you see, was she?
She was in that. And After Hours, a Martin Scorsese film, she has a small role in that, which is hilarious too. But I think that she's done so much work over the years that you forget that you've seen her. She's hysterical, was.
I'm very sad that Robert Duvall has left us, but mind you, he had a long and would appear very rich life, an Oscar-winning actor. And I first came to know Robert Duvall in The Godfather, where he played Tom Hagen, the consigliere, the family lawyer. And I thought he was brilliant. And it's an interesting story as to why he didn't participate in the third one. And we can get back to that if you like. But Apocalypse Now, Tender Mercies, To Kill a Mockingbird. He was actually, we talked about MASH. He was in the movie MASH.
Well, he was a man in his mid-90s. And I got to say that there's a lot of actors still alive now in their 90s. So it's not an uncommon thing. Clint Eastwood, Mel Brooks, Judi Dench, William Shatner are all in their 90s and still going strong. But Robert Duvall, I knew him probably best because of my age is Days of Thunder. He was the guy who built the car for Tom Cruise in Days of Thunder, and it was amazing.
That's where Tom Cruise met Nicole.
It was. He handpicked her for that role. I know exactly. But yeah, Apocalypse Now is one I saw too as a kid. Loved it. And he'd been in so much stuff. He became friends with a lot of people too. And he was really one of those old school Hollywood actors. He had an Australian connection. He got nominated for a few Oscars, but he won for Tender Mercies, as you just said before. That was directed by Bruce Beresford, an Australian.
Yeah, another Australian.
There's a connection there. He became friends with people like Robert Downey Jr. He used to take, I believe this is stories I heard, that he used to take people to lunch or dinner, like the whole crew and cast of movies he was working on. And he also, Billy Bob Thornton spoke about him after his death and said, Billy Bob Thornton said that he sometimes would go the opposite way and talk about everything but movies. You could go to lunch with him and he wouldn't bring up a movie once. It'd be all about country music or singing or animals or farms and stuff like that. So, yeah, he had a huge range of interests. But The Paper, there's one I want to recommend. He plays an editor of a New York newspaper that's going under a bit. Michael Keaton, Glenn Close is in it. Marissa Tomei.
Yes.
Great movie.
A great movie. Yeah, very, very sad. Robert Duvall. Please go back and try and watch some of his movies.
he left a great legacy, Luke.
Interesting story. I was watching an interview with Robert Duvall, and one of the first questions was, why weren't you in Godfather Part 3? And he said, I'll tell you why. He said, there it was, Francis Ford Coppola approaching him saying, we're going to do a third one. He said, 20 years later, why the wait? And he said, I worked it out straight away that they were doing it for the money. The script didn't look that good, that compelling, and he was not going to do it for any less than Pacino was going to get. And they offered him about a third. And he said, no, and he walked away.
Didn't know that story. Yeah, that's not great. But I don't know, like over the years, Godfather Part 3 has been reassessed. I actually I don't agree. I think it's okay. I mean, this is the only time we've disagreed in this chat so far, but I don't think it's terrible. I mean, there was complications behind the scenes. Winona Ryder dropped out. They put in Sofia Coppola, Francis's daughter.
Terrible.
That got a lot of flack. Andy Garcia's good in it. I don't mind. Look, I don't mind it. I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's been reassessed.
Andy Garcia, remember The Untouchables? Oh, yeah. Great movie. Andy Garcia in any Godfather movie is straight out of Central Casting. He just walked into it.
Again, I don't agree. That's okay. I mean, we can disagree. If you like Andy Garcia as much as I do, I guess I'm biased, but he's in a show at the moment called Landman with Demi Moore and Billy Bob Thornton. If you get a chance to watch Landman, I've spoken to you about it before. It is one of the great shows around at the moment. It's like Dallas, Landman.
It's like the TV series Dallas with Larry Hagman.
Yes, yeah. This is what I've been telling people. It's like a newer version of that in the Texas oil fields. Great show, Landman.
I did like Dallas. And Who Shot JR, best cliffhanger in the history of television. But that's another story. Okay, the Oscars are coming up. Tell us about the Aussies involved and can they win?
16th of March, my grand final. Can't wait. Now we've got Nick Cave to begin with. And Nick Cave's up for an Oscar for a song in Train Dreams. I think he might go all right. I don't know if he'll win because there's another movie called Demon Hunters with a song called Golden that is probably just going to win straight away because it's popular. Now our main hope is Jacob Elordi. He is the monster in Frankenstein. He's been nominated previously for Golden Globes and things, and this, you never know. He's up against Sean Penn, though, and Benicio del Toro for one battle after another. So that's my tip to probably sweep everything. And then there's Rose Byrne, our third Aussie that's nominated.
Yes.
Great Rose Byrne. Unfortunately, she's in the same year as another actor called Jessie Buckley for a movie called Hamnet about William Shakespeare's wife and the tragedy of that and their child. So Jessie Buckley deserves it. She's actually going to win and has won everything so far, and she'll win the Oscar. But if it wasn't for Jessie Buckley and Hamnet, Rose Byrne would have this in the bag because she's amazing in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, and I love Rose Byrne. But she's taking it gracefully. She's going to all these award ceremonies and clapping as Jessie goes up on the stage. But that's just how it is. The same year, two really good performances. Kate Hudson's also nominated, and she was great in Song Sung Blue, the Neil Diamond movie. So It's a great year. Great year. So, it's not for a couple of weeks at the time of talking to you now, but can't wait. 16th of March, and I'll hope the Aussies will go all right, but I'm not so sure. Jacob Elordi is our biggest chance.
Okay, we will keep a record of everything you've suggested, and then we'll see how you go after the big event.
Yeah, One Battle After Another and Sinners, they'll be the two big winners. I much prefer the One Battle After Another movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro. It's got the most nominations, like 13 or 14 nominations. It's very popular. But Sinners is a movie that could sneak under the radar a bit and win a couple.
Shane Adam-Basset, you have been great again. We were allowed to agree to disagree. I mean, wouldn't the world be boring if we just all agreed?
You're not the only one who hates Godfather Part 3. I don't, and I'm one of the few, but I'll support it.
You keep supporting it, mate, because it needs people like you.
Thanks for having me, Luke, and I hope that you get to the cinema soon yourself and catch a movie or two.
Hey, listen, brother, catch up again soon. You take care. Can't wait for our next chat.
Thanks heaps, Luke. Bye, everyone.
Time for another Man Cave with the Vice Captain, Adam McDonald. The big guy is with me now, star of the TV show Aussie Pickers. He is the General Manager of EHVA, Evans Hastings Valuers and Auctioneers. And we're going to talk to his boss in a minute because there is a big auction coming up. But it's kind of segues into our next guest. Adam, we have a special guest ready to go in the Man Cave today, and he's going to fit right in. He's an old mate of mine, and he is officially Councillor Warren Aubin from Bathurst Regional Council.
Sounds flash.
It is flash. Well, this bloke isn't. I don't know how the hell he got into council, but he's been there for a while now. But I've known Warren Aubin since the mid-'80s, I reckon. Probably because I went to Bathurst September 84, and I met up with Warren shortly after that. And we've been in touch for a long time, and we go way back. You're looking good, Woz. How are you, brother?
Mate, sensational. Thank you, Luke. It's a beautiful day in downtown Bathurst here. Pissing down rain, but anyway, that's the way it is. We need it. We need it bad.
Well, it's good to talk to you because Warren also is a professional driver. He has Bathurst Learn to Drive. He looks after learners, Adam. Yep. Overseas licence upgrades. He looks after seniors getting ready for their test. But he's raced cars for about 20 years. He's raced at the Bathurst 12 Hour, which has just come and gone. He's raced state and national sports sedans. And he's also had the rare on-air appearance on 2BS, and we're going to get to that a little bit later. There's a reason for this. It's coming up. We're going there, Warren. We're going there.
Yeah, we will. We'll revisit.
But Warren also specialises in defensive driving and advanced driving, which is something that I wanted to touch on, and I know that you and I have talked about this, Adam. But if I can just get you to sit tight for a second, because with us is the boss at Evans Hastings, Ben Hastings, because if you go onto their website, ehva.com.au, Evans Hastings Valuers and Auctioneers. Warren, this is going to interest you greatly, and I'm sure you've got lots of questions. They have a very special deceased estate auction coming up, and it's the estate of the late Robert Wootton, who was a very famous race car enthusiast and driver. And so I'm sure you've got questions, Woz, but Vice Captain, you've got Ben Hastings with you. Ben, g'day.
G'day, mate. How are you?
I'm very good. Ben, what have you got coming up?
Yeah, so we've picked up this beautiful estate auction. You know, the family engaged us just because we've got a broad range between the Evans Hastings brand and the Carbids brand to the entire estate of Bob's. And yeah, look, he was a really massive enthusiast in particularly the New South Wales hill climb scene for many years, for decades actually. And over those decades, he amassed himself quite a collection of some pretty rare and unusual race cars that he pretty much looked after himself. He was just a one-man band, did all the mechanical or the fiberglass work for the body panels, made his own molds, absolutely lived and breathed it as part of his entire life, really.
Mate, I'm just looking through the list there now. There is some very special cars there. There's that one that really took my eye was the 84 Ren Formula 2 car. It's a very special looking thing and 1.6 litre. Not sure what engine. Oh, here you go. VW Golf engine. So that would be one of the cars. Why I picked that one, I can pretty much recollect that one in the state championships back in late 80s. Mate, anything with a Golf engine in a little open wheel like that, they'd go like stink. So that would be a really good thing for anyone to pick up that's an enthusiast.
I think the other side of this sale is it's his full workshop, like all the tools. He's got absolutely everything that you would need to run a race car. Like he can mill his own brakes, he's got drill presses, all the bells and whistles, every single thing that you need. There's a hoist, there's jacks, there's spare tyres, parts. And the interesting thing is, in this sale, there's really rare parts that are really hard to find. So anyone who's an enthusiast, you've got to get involved and have a look at this sale. It's a good little thing.
Yeah, mate, it looks fantastic. I mean, if I was inclined to go back and do hill climbing, that sort of thing, well, obviously, you know, you got the box and dice there to just jump in, grab it and go for your life. You got everything there, self-sufficient. It'd be fantastic.
And it's ideal for those early clubs too, like all those historical racing clubs and stuff that sort of set up throughout the country. There's a lot of history behind all these cars. They're all CAMS logbooked and they've still got all the original logbooks and stuff with them too, which obviously plays a huge part for anyone trying to get into the historical racing stuff. Obviously, CAMS logbooks are incredibly important. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you got the Ren F2 car, you've got the original Ren Max, which is they hold an incredible big history for Australian motorsport.
When Ben and I first went out there, we saw the main workshop, but then next to the workshop, the little red, the 86 Lotus was literally a barn find. Like, it was tucked way down the back. We had to drag it out with some chains and push it out. Like, we've got some footage of us actually pushing it out of this, and it's a genuine barn find. Like, it had an inch thick dust all over it. Like, it's just a really, as auctioneers, this is the shit we love. You're finding these jobs and finding these cars and pulling them out and giving them another life. We live for this stuff.
Yeah, mate. I'll just diverge. My dad, God bless his soul, he was a Ford dealer with my grandfather in Bathurst. In his later life, he was chasing a 36 model Ford Coupe. That's what he wanted to get to actually restore. A guy came into our automotive spare parts shop one day. He'd just been to Parks. He'd heard on the grapevine this guy had a car in his shed. The guy came back through Bathurst and he came into the shop and he said, "Hey, Jack, come and have a look at this." And the guy had found a 36 Ford Coupe and pulled it out of the shed and drove it onto the trailer. And the guy said, "Just take it away, will you? I don't want it."
That's incredible.
And my old man nearly cried. He was on his knees. But yeah, that's the sort of thing that goes on. Barn finds are the crux of the matter around here. You would find a lot of race cars in barns and sheds around the place that just haven't been used for years and years and years. That would be worth absolute shitloads, but no one knows about it.
Can I ask you both a question, all of you, because you're all experts in this game, and that's finding great bargains that people have maybe forgotten about. I think it's pretty well known now, and I'll ask you Ben and Warren and Vice Captain. I'll let you take it in turns. But I think it's pretty clear now, and especially since the internet, that most Australian buyers of classic cars have got a fair idea of what they're worth, because everyone talks. There are car clubs, and because of the internet, there are shows showing the finding of barn finds, and there are holy grail cars like Ford Cobras, GDHOs, A9X Tiranas, GDXU1 Tiranas, all that sort of stuff. But maybe I'll go to Ben Hastings first. Ben, what is it about these barn finds? What is it about these cars that people literally put in barns and you find them covered in hay and chicken shit and all sorts of things? Why did people put these great cars in barns and then forget about them? Is there a theory?
Well, it's more than a theory. So, I mean, once upon a time, a lot of these cars weren't valuable. Sometimes cars that were the least popular, throughout the 60s or 70s or 80s or whatever the case might be, cars that people didn't really want, or they were too expensive to run or whatever, or sometimes people just thought, if they park it, they'll get back to it, or whatever the case might be. But there's usually a dedicated reason for it. And once upon a time, these things weren't valuable. And then, obviously they were in a position at that point in their life where they could afford a car like that. They've parked it away. Then, obviously a lot older now, and they tend not to be as internet savvy and things like that. They don't follow the markets on classic cars and so on and so forth closely. And it's not till, there's obviously a deceased estate or someone sees it and knocks on the door and approaches them that they realise that there's actually a lot of value to this stuff. A lot of the time that, we've come across barn finds or whatever, they parked it up because it had a mechanical issue and they just left it there and never went back to it. And they forgot about it, or, it was the husband's car and the wife parks it away and just has never done anything with it because she doesn't know where to start, or it wasn't a popular car at the time. They've parked it away and now it's something that's really desirable and sought after, because obviously if cars weren't popular back in the day, they didn't sell many of them. They become very limited numbers. They become very rare. And then obviously they become the ones that are now quite valuable.
I think that's it. I think, where these barn finds are, people, your kids move away from the farm, the car gets parked away, the parents pass away and the kids don't go back to the farm, so it's still sitting there. I think you said it to me the other day, Skipper, like no one in 60 years is going to get excited to find a Tesla in a barn find, are they? No one's going to get excited. So I think I bang on about this all the time with the auction game. It's all about nostalgia. That's what we're selling down here. It takes you back to your youth. You remember you used to ride in Grandpa's Leyland piece, jump around in the back seat with no seat belts, and you used to have a whale of a time. And then let's be honest, the P76 is probably one of the ugliest car God ever put breath into.
But a big boot, though.
Mate, you could fit a 44-gallon drum in the boot, though. That was the thing about those.
That was the advertising. That was part of the advertising. I know.
But that's what it is. It's just, I think with these barn finds, they're the cars get parked up, everyone moves away from the farm, the parents finally pass away, and then that's why these cars are still there.
Yeah. Hey, I've got one of those. It wasn't actually in a barn, but 1986 Bathurst 1000, this car came in the top 10. And probably 2 weeks after the race meeting, there was a for sale ad in Auto Action. I went down to Sydney and he had it in a shed at the Sydney airport as it came off the track. And I could have bought it for $16,000. I had $12,000 was my budget. That was all I had in my life. And he wouldn't take 12. Anyway, I missed out. That same car last year went on M10 as a Commodore, BK Commodore, Group A, M105.com last year for $315,000. So
that's the market, man. That's the market now.
That's the sort of thing that you deal with. It's you can actually you could have bought one of those things back in the day and just kept it for your superannuation. That's how they work.
I think probably the funniest story, and it's not an Australian story, but I think probably the most prominent story in the world about cars that weren't valuable because they weren't desirable that now are. The Ferrari 250 GTO is arguably one of the most expensive cars in the world. They sell for in the hundreds of millions for a phenomenal example. But when they sort of came off the market and, they were used heavily in Le Mans in the 60s and stuff, they were passing hands for around 10 to 14 grand. So much so that I think one of the most famous stories is that there was a 250 GTO that ended up getting donated to a school in America for the school to do their mechanical workshops on. And then eventually a gentleman bought it off of the school. It sat on a car trailer in the front yard of someone's house for years. And then a guy caught wind from, I think it was Sweden or something like that. He flew over and bought the car, and now that car's worth, 50, 60, 100 million. But, it was trading hands for tens of thousands of dollars at the time.
There's so many of those stories around. I mean, that one that particularly that got me was, it blew me away when I saw that thing for sale last year. I went, oh, my God.
I know a fellow where I grew up on the lower North Shore of Sydney. His father bought a Phase 3 GTO off the factory floor, drove it home and parked it in the garage. That car's still there. He's not moved it out of there. It's gone so far that he's taken the roller door off and bricked the brick and thing in. It's still there. It had like 20 miles on it. What would that be worth?
What's he going to do?
$1 million. Don't
know.
$1 million.
Guy here in Bathurst that's got a GTHO, Phase 3 in his garage. And, it's got kilometres on it, but not that many. I think it's only got about 50,000 miles or something like that. So he hasn't come to the point of bricking up his garage yet, but those things are worth a bomb. It's unbelievable.
On the other side of that coin, remember when the fires went through a couple of years ago? I know a fellow that lost 3 E-Type Jags that he had in sheds, not insured, and the fires just ripped through his shed. He lost 3 of them.
Yep. That's the other problem, isn't it?
Ben Hastings, tell us about Philip Robert Wooden.
He kept to himself for the most part. He had a very dedicated and close group of friends. Obviously a very intelligent guy, manufacturing all his own parts and maintaining these cars to the nth degree, created his own molds to create the fiberglass panels for the race cars and so on and so forth. Just dedicated most of his weekends and most of his life to doing hill climbs and traveling around the country and doing these hill climbs. He's held onto these cars for a long time, looked after every aspect of them, wiring, all the mechanicals, the engines, the diffs, we found that timber box full of all the diff ratio gears and stuff like that. He just went down to the finest details of working out all the mathematics of different ratios and things like that. It was, it's pretty incredible. He obviously just lived and breathed it and made it the whole part of his life was hill climb racing.
Yeah,
I think loved it.
I think his brother, he's really close with his brother. His brother is a mechanical genius. When we were out there, some of the cars weren't running. And his brother literally tinkered around for 20 minutes and we got him started.
And I think he was an engineer too.
Yeah. So the whole family was right in the races. Even the grandkids were there talking about racing cars and how they're so proud that Bob taught them how to drive a manual car and they learned to drive in this and they had a couple of rally cars there. But, in the sale, there's everything you need. There's tools, there's an old ambulance hutch there. There's absolutely everything. It's well worth having a look. I'm going to be out there on Sunday to do a viewing. So anyone in the area, come out to Temora. It's a beautiful little town. Come and say hello and have a look at the race cars.
And it's funny too, when you talk hill climbs, I remember when I was hill climbing, guys like that would give you the bloody shirt off their back to if you were having a problem to keep you going. You know, it was it was a real close-knit family, the whole Hill Climb Association. It was fantastic. It was the best days of motorsport, actually, and those sort of cars are now the real flavour of the month, to quote a cliche, because people are getting back in, and spectators love watching the historic cars go around. It's just one of those things that's coming back into the fore now. And I think that those cars should really show their value when someone comes to have it's an enthusiast. They will really pick up a bargain if they get something like that, because it's just those cars of the era. And I know now we've got an event spare up at Mount Panorama, a 5th event, and I would love to see a historic event take place up there, because we don't have that in Bathurst. But Bathurst is the history of motorsport in Australia, so that's the sort of thing that we're going for.
Excellent stuff. Ben, is there anything you'd like to ask Warren?
Yeah, probably a million questions. I reckon I could pick your brain for about 5 hours.
Go.
Yeah, well, no, I'm fascinated by it, but like I have a lot of opinions around how defensive driving and stuff should be, mandatory for people learning to drive. Like, I mean, I genuinely think we could just sit there and talk for hours. I'm a big advocate for defensive driving courses and advanced driving courses and things like that. I think it should be mandatory for anyone that's learning to drive. I mean, we teach people to pass a test, not how to actually drive and control a car, what happens when a car reacts to losing control in the wet, all of these important and critical factors, I suppose. But look, my old man was a driver trainer for the emergency service and stuff for a long time, and I used to race in the New South Wales Hill Climb Championships as well, funnily enough. So I actually came across Bob when I was a kid. I used to flag marshal when I was like 15 years old. And then as I got older, I started racing in the Hill Climb Championships too. So it's funny how all of this stuff crosses over. But you're right. Yeah. I'm surprised Bathurst doesn't have a historical division, particularly because that stuff's really starting to take off. I mean, Adelaide holds their big festival of speed. You've got Geelong holding their revival of speed. I really think Bathurst needs to take an uptake on that. It's a critical part of the Australian history.
I just jump in here. I agree with you. I totally agree with you, Ben. We recently went to Bathurst and we missed out on seeing Warren by half an hour. I think he went to he had a child playing cricket in Orange, I think. But anyway, we missed out. We were due to catch up with Warren because we went to the Motor Racing Museum at the foot of Mount Panorama at the end of Conrod there. And while it's got some good stuff, a lot of the great Bathurst cars are gone and they've been sold to a private collection on the Sunshine Coast. And while they're still preserved, and I think that's a good thing, I think they should be in Bathurst. I was really pleased to see Brockie's 1984 Group C, the last big banger. He won in 84 in it. And that's there. And the Alan Moffat 1977 Falcon with the famous 1-2 finish, that's there. There's a Seaton Fury Skyline there. But I was really looking forward to seeing Kevin Bartlett's 1982 Camaro, the one that fell on its roof, the Channel 9 Camaro. It used to be there. It's no longer. And my favourite car, I sound like a broken record, Brockie's 79 A9X Tirana, won by 6 laps, broke the lap record on the last lap, elbow out on the window. It used to be there. I know, because I actually have driven that car back in the day when it was living in Bathurst. Warren, it's a shame it's gone from Bathurst. I mean, it's a good thing that these great cars are being looked after and preserved on the Sunshine Coast, but they belong in Bathurst, don't they?
Mate, they absolutely do. I mean, you get anything that any of those vehicles that were stars in their day, that finished the race on the podium, that sort of thing.
The Dick Johnson cars.
Yeah, well, I know where 2 of those actually are. A guy has them in a private collection. All of those cars, they should be there and for everyone to enjoy. And that's the beauty of those cars. You walk in and, as you said, Luke, the 79 A9X, if that was sitting there, that's star of the show. That is absolutely.
That was the reason I went there. That was the reason I went there.
I mean, what? He won by 6 laps and he was a hand out the window waving to the crowd on the last lap that he broke the lap record. It was just incredible. I mean, the car is incredible and the bloke was incredible. Those sort of things are one of those, they should be in the museum. I actually had a launch. It was a Bathurst 1000 launch a few years ago in the museum. Neil Crompton was the host, And I said, because Crompton raced with Brock, and I said to Crompton, I said, mate, wouldn't it be great, this AI could do it now, but an image of Brock on the wall talking back to you, talking about the Bathurst 1000, that sort of thing, but Brock actually standing there talking. And he looked at me and just shook his head and said, what an unreal idea that would be. And now you sort of think this can come to fruition with this AI stuff that's getting around now. We should be able to do that. Get Peter Brock on the wall talking about his history of Bathurst and how many times he won the race and, just going like that. I think that would be unreal, but you'd really want his car in the showroom.
Yeah, look, I think the other thing they could definitely do too is, if a lot of these cars that hold huge parts of Australian motorsport history and stuff are just sitting in private collections and sitting in garages and not doing anything, it'd be great to see people donate it to the museum, even if it was just for 6 months and they were rotated in and out and so on and so forth. If it's been hidden from the public sitting in a private collection doing nothing, it should be on display where people can understand and appreciate the history behind it and learn about the car and learn about why it's such a history-rich car and what it's done for Australian motorsport and all that sort of stuff. And, it's not going to be any skin off their back to donate a car for a couple of months at a time and rotate them in and out, is it?
Yeah, no, that's 100%, mate. No, we've got a really good curator at the museum up here. His name's Brad Owen, and he actually has his finger on the pulse. He's pretty good at finding out where a lot of these cars are. And he does get quite a few of them on loan to come up to the museum to put them in for, as you said, for sort of probably 6 months, sometimes 12. But it's a lot of reluctance on the part of the owners that don't want these things put out in the public.
Warren, I just want to get back to the driver training, and I want to reiterate and agree with Ben Hastings. When you send your child off on their L's to go and get some professional driving lessons, they don't teach you how to drive. They teach you how to pass a test. What's the difference between a driver safety course and an advanced driving course? Or should I say defensive driving versus advanced?
Yep. Look, I get phone calls with parents to book their kids in for driving lessons, and they say, "Oh, he's done 40 odd hours. Oh, he just can't park." And as I say to them all the time, I said, "Well, they're not going to get killed parking, and you get them in the car and you start driving with them, and they just can't drive for shit. And it's they're a clone of their parent or whoever's sitting next to them. They become the clone of that person driving, and if they're not up to speed with their habits, then what hope's the kid got?"
We've spoken about it before, Skipper, where these sort of courses should be an elective at school. Should be in the school curriculum. If you're 17 and you've got your L's, you should be able to do it through the school, do a defensive driving course or whatever. Because these days, 99% of these kids who are getting their license, they're going to drive an automatic car. So they're not really driving; they're just steering. You've got no idea of gear braking or all that sort of stuff. So it's really, they're just like driving dodgem cars.
The other thing, Vice Captain, is that a lot of these clever cars even reverse parallel park for you. So there's another skill gone. You've got computers and cameras all around, so people become complacent. There's automatic braking, which doesn't always work. You can't rely on this technology. No. And I think the art of driving is going, Warren.
Oh, mate. I mean, you only got to look at manufacturing there. They don't even make a manual car anymore. It's pretty hard. I mean, kids will pick up a manual car. I don't even have a manual driving school car anymore because it used to just sit in the garage for a couple of months without being used. Vice Captain just hit a really good one. It should be in the school curriculum. You should be able to. People like us, driving instructors, should be able to go into schools and do presentations. And I mean, we can show some pretty graphic crash scenes of what happens when you are a little bit silly behind the wheel and that sort of thing, which makes them think. But to get back to your point, Luke, driver training is exactly that. It is just one of these motions that we go through to get somebody to pass a test. Now, once you pass that test, it should also be brought into the government regulations that everyone should do a defensive driving course. The powers to be, unfortunately, blind when it comes to advanced driving because they say if we go and teach young people how to, oversteer, understeer, whatever it is, let's get the back of this car hanging out around this corner in the wet, then when it rains, they're going to go out and practice it. You know, that's the brainwaves of these people they will. But and they won't know how to control it if they haven't had that sort of thing drilled into them. But that's what we're dealing with here is these brains trusted, the NRMA and that sort of thing, that it just won't give the go-ahead to advanced driving for younger people. And, you've only got to see the younger ones that get into hill climbs. And, even from farms that can actually drive a car, and I get them in my car to just polish them up for their test, they can actually handle a car. And you need basic knowledge to be able to get in a car, be safe, and make everyone else around you safe. And that's the problem. Defensive driving is one of those things that I do quite often, and I do with individuals, I do with group situations. And it's really good because you go around and you go back through the basics of driving. You give them, the full knowledge of what they should be doing and basically, passing the test again. But also we'll go and do brake testing so that these people know when they're driving at, say, 80 kilometres an hour and they have to do an emergency stop, they know how far it will take them to stop that vehicle, because we get out and measure it. We get them to stop, and then we get out and measure how far it actually took to stop a car. You can look at just travelling at 40 k's, say a school zone at 40 kilometres an hour. Once you recognise a hazard, and that hazard's usually a kid running across the road in front of you, it still takes you minimum 18 metres to stop that car. And that's if your reaction times are right on it. So it's one of those factors that I get people to write, how far do you think it will take you to stop at X kilometres per hour? And I'll put 40 down as the first one. Mate, I get people writing that they can stop a car in 4 metres. This is the part that scares me, because you've got people out there behind the wheel thinking that they can stop that car on a 20-cent piece, where in fact it's going to take them not 4 metres, but at least 20. So they're not giving themselves that range. And that's where all these accidents are happening. 100 kilometres an hour, you're travelling at 27 metres per second. You've got to factor that into your driving, and you can do that and teach people this in a defensive driving course. And the majority of the population out there driving have never got behind the wheel in a defensive driving course, never.
I think it's, I don't know if it is, but it should be compulsory for every Australian child to learn how to swim. And I think it should be compulsory for every Australian child who intends to get behind the wheel of a motor car to learn how to do it properly and not just pass a test. I'd love our listener feedback, 0291289311. Please leave your thoughts. lukebonaradioguy@gmail.com. I've got to let you guys go soon, but Warren, you are a councillor on Bathurst. It's now Bathurst Regional Council. You merged with Devonshire Council.
Yep.
Our cities, particularly Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, but particularly Sydney, overcrowded and way overpriced. And I know that it would be a good idea, especially young people who want to buy their first home, buy a bit of real estate, and maybe moving to a regional city like Bathurst, Australia's oldest inland city, Bathurst. What incentives do you think councils and governments could make in order to encourage people to move to your city? Bathurst, I've lived there. Great schools, hospitals, amenities. Pity the bloody aeroplane doesn't land there anymore. Hazelton's used to land there. I know that is a serious shame. But it's only 3 hours from Sydney. You've got a great water supply in Ben Chifley Dam. Bathurst City Council, long before you were on it, Warren, saw the growing need for a water supply, and they raised the wall. But you've got everything. How do you go about encouraging young Australians, or even established Australians, to downsize and move to a regional city?
Mate, you don't even have to downsize. You can upsize from where you are in Sydney. Post-COVID, we had a lot of people who were selling in Sydney, and they could come and buy a property in Bathurst for a third of the price of what they're paying in Sydney. And that's a beautiful 4-bedroom home, a third of the price of what you pay down there. You got fresh air. You're not lining up in bloody traffic to go to work. We've got a train service that you don't have to go and get on a train to go to work. You can just go to wherever you want to. You can walk down the street and say good day to, 10 out of 12 people that you walk past. It's just beautiful living, the birds chirping in the trees. I was actually talking to a mate of mine, just having a chat next door neighbour the other day. We were mowing the grass together and we both stopped and we just had a chat out the front. And with that, a kangaroo actually bounced down the road in suburbia. So you won't get that much down the city either, but it's just one of those things, Luke, and you touched on it. Bathurst has everything here that you'd ever need. We've got education facilities. We've got industry for jobs. It's a rural community as well. We have farmers and plenty of jobs out there in the bush to go and be a farmer. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like a lot of other things. How do you sell that to people that are entrenched in city life, that look at coming out to the country and say, oh, God, that's backwards going out there. Well, it's not. It really isn't backwards at all. And, mate, you could come and live in Bathurst and you don't have to travel to go to the Bathurst 1000. It's in your backyard. So, I mean, there's a lot of pluses. There's a lot of pluses for coming out here.
I think you've nailed it there. Like, if you asked me 5 years ago, would I move out of Sydney, I would have said, you need your head read. I went back there last weekend, and now the best view of Sydney is in my rear vision mirror. It is so overcrowded. Yeah. You just go up there and stand in a line. And I think Canberra's the happy medium down here. Like, I've got a mob of kangaroos over the road from my house. There's lots of good work. There's good restaurants. The lifestyle's great. So I think Bathurst would be no different. And it's hard once you do step away and you realise how hectic and how much mayhem your life is living in these big cities. Once you step away, like, I'll never go back. I'll give you the tip. I'll not go back.
It's funny, Canberra, Canberra is obviously well known for its politics and its politicians, but it used to be very well known for its porn and its fireworks.
Yeah, we're in Fishwick. That's the home, mate. But that's where we are.
I know.
Politics, too, Vice Captain, I'll just jump in there. Shut up, Luke. A lot of people also, when they come retiring age, they'll move from here and go up the coast or, Port Macquarie or go to Queensland because it's great. I love to live up there. Mate, 2 years later, they're back because Bathurst is the best place to live. They just couldn't get used to living anywhere else. So, sorry, mate, you can go now. I just had to get that in while it was on the brain.
I was just about to say, obsessed with porn. Can't get a word in. I had a gag. I was going to say obsessed with politicians and porn, and it's all about getting your member into the lower house.
I remember when I first got here, I took we've got a big All Bids van with all our signage on it, and I was up in Sydney delivering something. Some guy pulled up next to me in traffic and asked if I had any firecrackers because I've got Fishwick down the side of my van. I don't think you get crackers here anymore, can you?
No, they're banned now.
No, they're gone now. Still plenty of porn though.
Hey, listen, Adam, have you got any illegal tobacconists there?
Oh, they're everywhere. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, they'll go up in flames soon. Don't worry about that. Hey, listen, before Warren goes, Warren, we ask every guest on the Man Cave, and we'd love you to come back, Warren, because there's more to talk about. But is there a toy from your childhood that you wish you still had that Adam can maybe give you a valuation on? What it'd be worth now?
Yeah, look. Gee whiz. A toy from way back when. I used to be a fan, and it sort of, this is why in my later life I've just had cars is all my life, and I even worked with my dad who had a spare parts and accessory shop for 7 years. The Mod Squad Hot Wheels car was my favourite ever car that I had because it was a bit longer than the others. It was lower and used to go like shit on my track. Used to beat everything. And I just wish that I had it back now to give it to my young bloke so he could play it on his Hot Wheel track and watch how bloody good it is. The Mod Squad.
Ben's huge into model cars and the car market. These Hot Wheels, they're still so popular because now they're cross-generational. They're still making them. So Dad had some when he was a kid. Now your kid's got them. But those Mod Squads, to find one in a box in its original packaging, be like hen's teeth, Warren. You're not going to find one because all the kids used them. That's what they were for, running in the dirt and along the tracks. And so they've all been used. But what do you reckon something like that would be worth?
I wouldn't know exactly what the Mod Squad is, but I know some of those early Hot Wheels cars are worth an exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah.
Like those original Redline series ones, the first Redline series Hot Wheels. Like there's particular ones that are in thousands of dollars now.
Where you buy them from back in the day, you buy them in Toy World for like $4.
Ben, I can give you a little bit of a history on the Mod Squad, if you like. What year were you born, Warren?
Oh, 68.
Yeah, okay.
Good vintage.
I'm 62. So this is, Ben, this is before you and the vice captain. But it was a TV show that was very big. It was an American drama season, and it was kind of really cool and groovy because it was about 3 plainclothed hip detectives. And it starred Peggy Lipton, Clarence Williams III, who was a black actor, which was very unusual back in the day, early 70s, and an actor called Michael Cole. Now, for those who don't remember, Michael Cole was very, very famous because back in the day, the Logie Awards used to have guest overseas actors come and present a Logie, and they actually had an award for Best American TV Show. And one of them, one year, was the Mod Squad. And Michael Cole, guest presenter, gets up on the stage with Bert Newton. And can we just say he was tired and emotional? Do you remember this, Warren?
Yes, I do. I actually do.
And he got up on the stage next to Bert Newton, and this is how it played out.
I really didn't know that this was going to happen. And I have an affliction. It's called emotion. And oh, shit.
Congratulations, Michael.
Okay. Now, shit today is nothing. But back then, it was the end of the world. I mean, it's the Logies, primetime TV, there's Bert Newton, and this expletive comes out. And it made headlines everywhere. It was a really big deal. Michael Cole from the Mod Squad. But worse things have gone to air. Warren Aubin made a bit of a name for himself way before he was on Bathurst Regional Council. He's always been a bit of a larrikin. Now, I just want to paint the picture here, and this is 100% true. The breakfast announcer on 2BS in Bathurst was on holidays. And in fact, he's still there, Kerry Peck, the great Kerry Peck. So there was another bloke filling in for him who wasn't quite as competent. And they had one of those regular competitions that they have on radio called The Secret Sound. This fill-in presenter was told that he was not allowed to put live calls to air. He was to record the calls while a record was playing. But no, he decided he'd go live to air without using delay and put the callers for The Secret Sound on. And one of the callers lining up to have a crack at The Secret Sound, we found out, was the esteemed Honourable Councillor Warren Aubin, who would have been, at the time, 18 or 19, correct?
Yeah, around about that. Yep.
And shall we reenact it? Because this is, Ben and Vice Captain, this is not a word of a lie. And the Kelsey's obviously going to have to clip this if we're going to put this on YouTube. But Warren, are you ready to reenact this? Can I just say this, Vice Captain and Ben? This made radio, in the radio industry, this was the most talked about piece of radio ever since probably John Singleton giving Bob Rogers advice when Bob Rogers got moved from morning radio to afternoons on 2GB in 1977. And Bob Rogers was filthy, and he got John Singleton on the phone, who incidentally years later bought both stations, and said to John Singleton, what do you think of my move from morning radio into afternoon radio? And Singo said, well, it's a very strange move, and I think it's a very strange mob of people you work for. And if I was you, Bob, I'd go up to management and say, why don't you go f*** yourself? And it went to air. And it's famous. You can find it. You can famous. And Bob finishes by saying, I guess that's the best advice I've had today. What do you suggest I do now? And Singo says, play him a record, Bobby. And Bob Rogers was promptly sacked. However, let's go back to a very young Warren Aubin. I'm tipping Warren 1985, 86?
87, probably.
87.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And this is how it went. Okay, time for Secret Sound. Hello, Secret Sound.
Yeah, good morning. Is it a...
I'm sorry, I missed that. Can you say that again?
Yeah, is it a...
No, I'm sorry, it's not one of those. Hello, Secret Sound. And it went to air. Exactly like that.
I can't believe he was asked to repeat it.
Me and Warren have been laughing about that since 1987 because it not only went to air, this bloke said, "I'm sorry, I missed that. Could you say that again?"
And then he said, "Oh, no, sorry, it's not one of those." That's what he said.
Kelsey's going to have she's going to be very busy making this presentable for YouTube. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being there. And thank you for caring. What if they don't care?
They probably don't.
Please share. That we want people to share.
Yeah, go on, do your thing.
Spread the word. This has been another Bonafide podcast where we don't tell you what to think. We just give you something to think about.
Yay. Okay, bye.
So remember, if you want something easy that actually fits into a busy day, check out Power B from Nature B. Full meal replacement. Chocolate flavour, 2 shakes a day. The intro pack's only $39.95 and it comes with a 100% money-back guarantee, no questions asked. If you don't like it, the links are in the description. And like anything, it works best alongside regular exercise and a balanced diet.